Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast. That's Tyler Jones chiming in already. That's fun. Episode 282. Tyler Jones, Espinosa Cigars.
Hello, Steven.
It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too, my friend.
Yes, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
We got Nate Hale in the garage as well.
Pay attention, Nate.
I can hear and type at the same time, jackass.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Cool.
Oh,
This is
here we
really
go.
friendly.
Let's go.
Let's go.
I'm going to have a glass of water.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, episode 282. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We have just some business to go over. First, thank our sponsors, Tinder Box at Easton. Tyler is a rep for the area. Tinder Box at Easton. It carries a lot of Espinosa products.
Yes.
Including the featured cigar tonight, which is going to be the Warhead, the 601 La Bomba Warhead 9.
You got it spot on.
That is a long title. Just the Warhead 9 from Espinosa is what most people probably would call that.
That works too.
So we're going to go over that tonight in part one. But also, like I said, they carry a lot of Espinosa products. Eric's a big supporter of the shop, and we're a big supporter of Eric Espinosa and your guys' crew for sure. Also want to thank Altadis USA. Just renewed a year-long sponsorship with them. Thanks to Maria and Charlie.
I saw that stuff in the back of the humidor.
Some good
They
stuff.
hooked you up.
Yeah, some good stuff for sure. Some limited stuff we're going to be featuring over the next year. And they also support us by giving us the second featured cigar, the second cigar of the week, every week in part two. So we appreciate Altadis and all their support. And also be a cigar company. Espinosa makes the silver. And it's all Nicaraguan, kind of medium full, peppery. And then Placencia makes the gold. Those are available through Tinder Box and a couple other places. Or you can always contact the Tinder Box at Easton, be a cigar company, or even us at the show. And we'll hook you guys up somehow and ship you whatever you need. Run it through the Tinder Box.
Do you guys still have any of those limited edition 6x60 silvers?
We do.
Those things are smoked. I smoked one, yesterday? No, you weren't there.
That was today. No, it was yesterday.
That was yesterday. I smoked one yesterday. That thing's still smoking. That thing's rock solid, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great stick.
Yeah, and it's more balanced. It's not quite as peppery, but
right.
Great flavor. So thank you to the sponsors. Also, you guys out there, really, really appreciate this. The patreon.com page. So patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. And also you can do a one-time contribution of Venmo. And the tag there is at Bourbon and BS. So we appreciate all the contributions, and the monthly support from you guys helps us keep doing this because it's not free. This is kind of a side thing for us, and we just enjoy doing it. And it seems like a lot of people enjoy listening either live or after the fact. So thank you guys very much for that support. And also, if you want to get some swag, buyjack.com. That's byjack.com/Bourbon and BS for any of the shirts. Like what Nate's got on, he's got the actual kind of the BS silver shirt and the red and silver. It says focus on the silver lining underneath there. And then I've got the podcast shirt in blue, the pour one more, light up another. We'll figure this out together, which is kind of what we do here.
Was that color just a prototype for you, or is blue one of the actual colors?
It's a good question. This is a prototype, but I thought we had it on there. Maybe not. Maybe it's just what? Red, black,
red,
gray,
black.
And I have both of those shirts and the 3/4 sleeves at home.
3/4 sleeves are badass too.
The 3/4 are the best.
I know pink. I know pink and green were charity.
Yes, those were limited. So, anyways, buy Jack. Yeah, for Patty's Day.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Buyjack.com/Bourbon and BS. Guys, check it out. Any of the swag on there, including some hoodies coming up for the fall and winter. All right. Also, biggest thing, share, like, comment, and review and subscribe. We appreciate you guys. Tell someone about it if you guys think that you want some more listeners, more people involved in the conversation. That's the biggest way to help this thing grow, is get people to listen in with us live or after the fact, wherever you're listening, whether it be on Facebook, YouTube, or any of your podcast apps like iTunes, Spotify. Blue is on there, isn't it?
Blue is. It's the first one that pops up.
iTunes does the podcasts?
Yes.
Well, yeah, just your normal
Apple
the podcast
app. Okay, yeah.
I don't know what to call that. Apple Podcasts?
I guess so, yeah. I guess
iTunes
iTunes
is outdated, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. It seems like it was like a 90s thing.
iHeartRadio, you can find it on there. Seriously, you can.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
No shit.
That's right.
iHeartRadio is still a thing?
Yes, right.
Oh,
wow. Good for them. Right? So is America's sweetheart Ryan Seacrest still on there?
I'm sure. He's
Beautiful.
Everywhere.
Beautiful.
He
hasn't aged at all. Have you? I watched
aged,
dude. I watched like a thing of American Idol last year, like it was like the season finale or whatever. Because Jelly Roll and Lainey Wilson did like a performance on it, and they showed Ryan Seacrest. I'm like, holy shit, he looks exactly the same as he did 10 years ago when I used to watch it with my mother.
He does look good. I mean, I think he takes
old
care
is
of
he?
himself. I don't know, 50 something.
Probably.
We're not on Napster, Jonathan Herring.
That would be great. Napster.
Check out LimeWire though.
Yeah.
You said it's legit.
I'm the real Napster.
Is it still around? The guy from what was that movie?
Italian Job.
Italian Job.
With
Yeah,
Seth Green.
I'm the real Napster.
Oh my goodness.
Love that movie. That's a great movie.
We're not on Napster to my knowledge, but if it is, it's being pirated, maybe.
Possibly.
Right?
That'd be a good thing.
That'd be a
If anyone
good
wants to
publicity.
Upload it on there. That'd be great. No,
Get a virus.
I mean, pretty much like iTunes podcasts, like that's pretty much all free anyway. So
Yeah, for sure.
all right. What are we smoking tonight here?
So what we lit up first, fellas, is the 601 La Bomba Warhead 9. As we all know, pretty much the last 3 years since I started this job, we've pretty much featured every year's Warhead. So this is the Warhead 9. This is 6x56 Figurado. If you remember, back when I first started, we launched Warhead 6. And that was a short little Perfecto.
Yeah.
So this is literally actually, I believe, like an inch and a half longer, maybe. And it's same ring gauge and everything, just not box press like the one before was. So that was like huge. That's probably the most successful Warhead that we did.
A little shorty?
Since the little shorty.
Really?
Yeah, that thing sold like crazy. I mean,
also when you started, I feel like you're looking for
that was also
like
during the COVID boom
pat
too.
on the back.
The what?
Like a pat on the back. Like
Oh,
you started
yeah.
Warhead 6 and all of a
Right,
sudden,
yeah.
oh, it's bestseller. Oh, because I was there. I feel like it's what you're getting at.
I mean, I guess we could go that route too, but at the
You
same
don't
time,
even know how to give yourself a compliment.
It did attribute to sales.
it did attribute to sales. But no, Warhead
did a
6
great
was
job.
super successful, and this one is already like the few shops in the Midwest that actually got it so far. They've because we're still waiting for the massive shipment to come in, which should be this week coming up, and that's gonna be. This one's going to go crazy just like that one, I think. And it already has. The reception's been fantastic for it.
Yeah.
And, we're using the same Nicaraguan broadleaf we've been using in the past. And Nicaraguan binder fillers, the same insides as the normal 601 La Bomba, blend with the yellow footband, just in this one particularly unique size. And, this thing's, I love this thing. It's really nice. It's got the power, it's got the flavor, but it's balanced. And it's also just an absolutely killer limited production thing we do every year. I mean, this is the 9th iteration of it. Next year will be our 10-year anniversary of the Warhead project. So
that'll be great.
I'm looking forward to that one a lot. Last year we did the box press 660, which sold really well. And then we also
that was that short Churchill.
It was a legit Churchill.
Oh, okay.
That was the 7x50. It had like the LA Rams color scheme to it. And it was that was awesome. I like that Churchill. That was actually probably the least spicy and powerful one of the ones since I started.
I still have 2 of the 8s at home.
That 8 smoked really. I'm not a 660 fan myself.
The box press I'll do. And
the box press helps a ton, and it smoked really nice. Actually, I smoked one. I did an event when I had Eric with me at the end of June when we were making our tour around Indiana. We did an event up in Fort Wayne, and they had one Warhead 8 left. And I was like, screw it, I'm going to take this.
Yeah.
I ended up, I smoked it. Shout out to Rudy's up there. But now that cigar aged really nice. After like a year, that thing smoked really nice. And then you can't even tell it's a 6x60 because of the box press. And it just helps a ton.
Yeah. Yeah, this one do you know what the ring gauge is? The fattest?
56.
It's a 56.
Yeah.
This Figurado reminds me of the Oliva V Figurado.
Yep. Yeah.
I think that is either 56 or maybe even bigger.
It might be a 58. I think that thing gets pretty fat.
Maybe even 60 at the fattest.
Yeah.
But this really does need to open up. I think some people might be frustrated because this is one of those, not say true Figurado because there's other Figurados out there, but this is one of those extreme, almost like the Hemingway for Fuente. But I mean, like the Oliva V, some people even cut sometimes.
Tyler did.
The nipple?
Yeah. Did you cut it off?
I cut the nipple. It just
sounds very painful, first of all.
Well, thankfully, I don't know what that feels like.
All right.
But I snipped it off, and Hector, our head blender for the company, he did the same exact thing. So if I see the head blender do it, I follow his lead, type deal. So he did it, and he's like, dude, it just opens up quicker. It doesn't.
So that's what I was
tunnel,
getting
or
at
it doesn't
here,
burn
right?
Weird. So it's more of an aesthetic thing. I mean, there's no reason why you can't light the nipple and just chief it down that way, but I don't want to go through that. I don't want the hard draw at the beginning.
That's what I was trying to get at there, is that, obviously some people might be disappointed they light it up. They're like, man, I got to cut more off. This thing's not drawing.
And then next thing you know,
you
it's
really
just,
do need to.
once you get past that
and that's
tip, that opens up beautifully.
That's why I do a V cut on this one.
I've never been a V cut guy on a torpedo.
Oh, I love it.
And it just doesn't do it for me. I don't think it's open enough. But that's
depends on the smoke, probably.
Yeah, probably.
We do have a classic La Bomba sign over Nate's head on the picture.
That's a Warhead tin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's the bomb girl with the
I forget what year that is.
I don't know when.
Probably
we
6. I mean, you gave that to us, I think.
No, that was that. Though we did those before I started.
Okay, but
that was probably the year before.
Okay,
it was probably the year before I started when we released those. Because, trust me, I would have those. I'd have one in my apartment if I, well, theoretically, I would have one in my apartment if I got a big box of those, and I don't own one, so.
We do.
You do.
So that's cool.
Yeah, I might have to steal that later on.
What's the makeup of this? Oh, go ahead.
I think there were some of those signs given out last October at the prime rib dinner.
So we did the small ones.
Oh,
so it was just
ones.
the bomb.
Okay.
It was just the bomb. They were
Yeah.
probably
That's right. Yeah.
like a foot and a half long.
Yeah, it wasn't
maybe.
the top with the girl on it.
No, it was just the bomb below,
Yeah.
and we had all the different colors for all the different years we produced. Because all the foot bands are different every year. It's the same bomb essentially, but it's got different color schemes and stuff like that.
It's like
you got to be
Dr.
creative.
Strangelove right in the bomb at the end.
Yeah. And so we we did a bunch of the tin signs last year. Those were awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And they had all the different color schemes and different editions. They had the different numbers on them and stuff like that. So we did give those out at the prime rib dinner last year. You're correct. But then the makeup of the cigar, Nicaraguan broadleaf wrapper. Like I said earlier, it's the binder and fillers from the normal 601 La Bomba. And it's all Nicaraguan. Make it out of AJ Fernandez's factory in Ocatala, Nicaragua, which is like an hour and a half north of Esteli. The only factory in that area. So AJ gets plentiful of people that want to work up there, and they gets to pick and choose who he wants. And that's a great factory for us to make all of our Laranja Oscuros, Azulejos, which is our second cigar we're going to be smoking tonight, Murcielago, and the list goes on.
Not the original Laranja.
Not the orange label, no. The Laranja Reserva comes out of Lozona.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that was the baby right there.
That was the one that put us very much on the map.
Yeah, I mean, you're already Eric was already on the map, but I mean, that was the one that you hit
for Espinosa
like
premium
14
cigar
or something like that.
The EO days.
Yeah, like the 601s and shit. Like that was I mean, what was you guys like number 14 or 17 on the top 25 with that? I think
with the Laranja Reserva.
Yeah, when it was just Laranja.
That would have been 14 or 15.
Yeah,
I can't remember. It got 94 rated in Aficionado.
Yeah. A great rating.
Great rating.
Top 25. It was very cool to see.
Yeah. And that cigar has been smoking better than ever right now. That's still my favorite cigar we manufacture.
I agree. And I love the.
You smoked one yesterday, right?
I smoked the Toro. I really like I always say Caixa.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great one.
I like the Robusto Extra.
Yeah, that's good.
It's like a 5.5.
Yeah. And like about a 54 or 50. It's a little thicker.
52, I think.
Nate, what do you think of this war? Are you a fan of the Warhead series?
Yes.
Okay.
I think probably the first one I smoked was it may have been that Churchill, the number 7.
That was the first one you ever smoked?
Maybe. I don't necessarily remember getting into the 6, that short Figurado.
Okay.
I don't necessarily remember that one off the top of my head.
I think we smoked it on here.
Yeah, but I absolutely loved.
Yeah, probably
did.
I absolutely loved the number 7. Number 8 was fantastic too. Like you were saying, Tyler, I'm not usually a 60 ring gauge kind of guy either. Box press 60s, I can handle better. But yeah, the flavor on that cigar was just absolutely fantastic. So
less girth.
Yeah. So when Tinder Box got these ones in, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to buy a couple of them because it's one of those things you almost look forward to every year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, it's one of our most anticipated releases every year. I get questions all the time around the Midwest, and everybody's like, even on social media and stuff, like people aren't even from the Midwest, but they know I work for the company. And they're like, "When's the new Warhead coming out? When's the new Warhead coming out?" And I'm like, "It's gonna be here."
You guys try to release it around the PCA, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's pretty much when we start taking initial orders. Usually is on that, and usually it ships somewhere around there. Yeah.
And that'll be interesting to see for those that are in the industry or really into the cigars and the new releases coming
Thank you,
up
by the
this
way,
year.
Jonathan Herring, for the compliment.
Saying that's
Very nice
fantastic
of you.
so far, yeah. It will be interesting to see how, with the PCA being almost like rushed, if you will, because it's now scheduled for March.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see the dynamic of new releases.
I think it's going to be great.
It will. It'll be, I mean, kind of side topic there, but I mean, you got to think that's a slower time for a lot of the shops, so it's easier to get there. But as far as the spending power and stuff like that, it will be interesting to see with that. And then also with you guys releasing stuff or announcing stuff, normally it would be midsummer and then it's landing. So if people are able to get them out and for the busier season for the summer, that might be exciting.
There's going to be way more turns at that point than there's going to be just business-wise for everybody, especially in the Midwest. I think March is a beautiful time frame, and even when after the year after that's going to be in April, apparently, and that's going to be in Louisiana. But March, April, I think is the ideal time where we can take advantage, especially in the Midwest, of sales and stuff like that, especially with newer products. They're getting them debuted at a good time, and I look forward to that a ton.
It's not a bad time for the rest of the country either, because for the South, the summertime's their slow season because it's just too fucking hot to sit outside and smoke cigars.
Right. Yeah.
So March, April, like it's not too
That's still
bad.
towards the end of their hot busy season, but they're still going to be busy one way or the other.
Yeah.
The Florida's going to pump cigars one way or the other. It don't matter how hot.
I was just saying, from a retail standpoint, the cash flow is a lot more limited.
Yeah.
Coming out of the winter in the first
That's
quarter.
True. Yeah.
And then you're asking for big show deals. I'm pretty sure there's going to be those, and then there'll be some sort of a summer deal as well from a lot of manufacturers. Because
I never thought about
predict this is something that, for again, this is a little more the inside the industry cigar side. I hope I'm wrong, but I am going to predict that attendance might be up. So therefore sales might be okay because you'll have more people buying.
Yeah.
I think order numbers, like the total ticket number, will be a lower average.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of that, or
the time frame and stuff.
Or some manufacturers will say, put your order in now, and it won't be shipping until June, July, because what happens a lot of times now is you put your order in July and shit doesn't ship until August, September, even October, which that's a backfire also, because yes, you have the cash flow coming out of your busy season, but you're going into your slow season with all the new releases,
right? Yeah,
which is kind of nice because people that may, like, if you get the colder weather, you may not be going to the cigar shop, but they've got the new stuff, so I want to try it.
It gives the people to come to the cigar shop.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to both of it, but I'll be interested to talk with you and other reps and some of the manufacturers after the fact and see what the like I said, I hope I'm wrong. I think the Midwest is going to be. I think there's a lot of people that are used to going to the show. Yeah.
Like from the South or from the West Coast or something like that. And they're going to see some retailers that are like, dude, I've been coming to the show for 20 years. I've never seen that guy here, but his badge says Chicago or his badge says Indiana, Ohio, Michigan. Yeah. Michigan always shows out for whatever reason. They're like that state shows out at the trade show. It's awesome to see because there's just a bunch of great retailers up there. But I'm really looking forward to March because that gives, my people, essentially my territory, shop owners and managers, the time to be like, okay, I can actually step away from my store and go out to Vegas and not have to worry about, not having as many employees working because it is, it's a little slower. It's a little slower. So I think that's going to open up the doors for a lot of retailers. And I think retailers might take the opportunity to stock up before the busy season too.
If they have the
cash flow.
If they have the cash flow, or they're ready to spend that money. And maybe, if you do ship, all of a sudden it's like, oh, they're shipping in April. And you're like, well, I don't need it quite yet, but okay, I'll have it.
Right.
It'll be interesting. It's one of those industries that, obviously is very seasonal as far as your peaks and your troughs as far as your cash flow goes. Healthy businesses that are good all year round, they'll be fine. If the ones that are basically, ordering now based on last month's sales,
right,
it might be tough. This cigar, you said Nicaraguan broadleaf. Was it always that?
So about Warhead 7, I want to say. Warhead 7, I think we started using the Nicaraguan broadleaf versus Connecticut broadleaf.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it changed at some point.
It did. And, AJ luckily is growing this phenomenal Nicaraguan broadleaf wrapper. Mm-hmm. And Hector went down to Nicaragua and gave it a try and was like, you know what? It's just a pretty good stuff right here. I think let's try maybe switch out Connecticut broadleaf and save that for 601 blue.
Wow.
And
And Connecticut broadleaf's harder and harder to come by.
Right. Yeah, of course. And so we want to be able to make sure we keep 601 blue, one of our top selling cigars in stock, I imagine. So that might have been one of the motivations to switch to the Nicaraguan broadleaf, which AJ has plenty of, luckily. And it works out beautifully. And I think this blend just hits really, really nice. And it gives a very unique profile.
We've seen companies in the past where if they used a limited production type of wrapper, or I shouldn't say limited, but not readily available in large quantities, but they're trying to use that for multiple blends. One of those blends ends up suffering because one might be limited edition to a certain area, but then another one's a regular production for everybody. Well, obviously they're going to go to the one that's regular production for everybody because it's just a quantity thing.
Yeah, of course.
Sell the shit out of it, cut the other one loose, stop making it.
Yeah.
Seen that before.
This is, I mean, it's a stout cigar.
Very stout. Yeah. It's got a lot of good body to it. It's just the aroma that comes off the foot is really pleasant. The smoke is super nice. It's got that great spice. It's creamy. It's got just a very profound profile to it that just it hits right from the second you light.
Great retro on it.
Great retro.
Yeah, what do you guys think of the retro? I was about to talk about that. Let's hear what you guys have to say.
It's got nice pepper to it without being like harsh and overpowering.
Yeah, it's definitely a balanced pepper.
It's got some woodiness on the nose as well.
Yeah.
It's one of those. It's got more spice through the nose than on the palate, I feel.
I would agree with that.
But yeah, I mean, the flavor's great, and if you're someone who doesn't retrohale, this is a good cigar to maybe not the best cigar to try it for the first time, but it's a good one to do it on because it'll show you just what you're missing out if you're not someone who can retrohale through the nose, because it kind of shows what you're missing. To answer Avi's question, it's probably just a hair under full body.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's too full.
It's definitely fuller bodied. It's not the fullest out there, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I mean, I'm assuming Hector's using some decent amounts of Ligero on this.
Well, it's got the insides of the 601 La Bomba, which is our strongest cigar, and this one behind it is a silent killer as well.
Yeah,
nicotine wise.
Yeah.
But if you're talking like nicotine, the normal 601 La Bomba definitely is probably the most potent, powerful, like most aggressive cigar in our portfolio.
Do you know what wrapper's on that?
It's a Habano wrapper. I can't say if it's from Nicaragua or Ecuador. Okay. I think it might be Nicaraguan.
Yeah, I thought so.
But it's Habano. It's definitely Habano.
Yeah, going off of Nate's notes there, yeah, definitely there's a pepper in the retrohale. It's like a cleaner finish though than some, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's not eye watering as far as that goes as much. It is going to punch you a little bit, but I think it is going to be something that it just finishes. Even on the palate, like
it's clean.
That's what I mean.
I could smoke two of these in a row. I could definitely chief down two of these in a row.
You could,
be fine.
I've never seen you without a cigar in your hand.
Well,
comes with Burns over here.
Comes with the job, right?
I kind of like the way this smokes with being that figurado, where this cigar constantly tapers towards the head of it because you're burning more tobacco at the foot, and it's just kind of condensing it as it comes to the head of the cigar. So it just kind of condenses and compacts all that smoke and flavor right onto your palate.
Yeah. No, I love figurados like this because when they are that tapered the whole way, like the ring gauge is constantly changing on this. I mentioned the Oliva V Special Figurado. I love that cigar. That one smokes differently than any of the other Vs, in my opinion.
Have you smoked the 601 Green La Punta?
Yes. That's a shorter one, right?
Yeah,
it's like a 5.5 or something like that.
Yeah, it's like a 5.5 by
same
whatever.
Thing. Same thing.
Smaller ring gauge. It doesn't get quite as thick as 56.
Yeah.
I think the thickest it gets is 52. But that's my favorite 601 Green we did. That thing is just absolutely killer.
If a figurado like this, where it is tapered,
but I like figurados though.
I do too. And that's kind of my point, is that this is going to be like ever changing as you smoke it. I think, and I'd be interested to have Hector on here with talking about this cigar too, or even Eric, obviously. But I mean, Hector, doing a lot of the blending right now for you guys. It would be interesting to see what they think. This is not necessarily an easy
This thing just
Vitola
ramped
to
up a
roll.
little bit.
So yeah,
Ramped up a
this
little
is a Vitola that would almost insist on complexity
bit. Mhm.
as opposed to a just typical like a straight Vitola of a cigar. This thing, it's almost as they're bunching it and as they put that in the mold and everything else, it's like it's almost insisting to be complex or at least have some complexities to it, because this will amp up, in theory, to me, because just even when you put like a bellicoso or a torpedo head on something, it almost like channels the smoke.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So like it almost like funnels it and it gets closer together, where this is constantly goes that wide at the bottom once you get past the very tip there, and then it just kind of is slowly getting as you're smoking it, it's
getting more
smaller and
concentrated.
smaller. It's like a fucking fun house,
Right. Yeah.
like it's just like, oh, this seems to be getting smaller as I'm walking down this hallway. It gets that constriction of it, and I think it amps it up even more so than if you're smoking this in one of those other sizes that you guys have done,
Right.
like the box press Gordo, like the Churchill. I mean, this I think adds some complexity just because of the shape of the cigar, which I absolutely love.
Well, and I think because of the shape of this, in order to be able for that smoke to draw through the upper portion of that cigar, you have to front load this cigar,
Which we already do anyways.
Exactly. So you've got your filler leaves, but then in order to be able to make that wider foot of the cigar, like you've got to add a little bit more tobacco in the foot of it in order for it to you know, not be too loose at the foot, but not be too tight at the top. So I think, you know, there towards the bottom half of the cigar, there's a lot more tobacco that you're burning. So so it gives them a chance to, you know, add some flavor, add some punch, and then kind of back off. I think right in the middle, it'll kind of back off a little bit because you've gotten past the part where it's completely front loaded. And now it's that upper half. That's where everything's kind of condensed in now and is the rest of the filler.
Yeah, this is, I mean, I'm halfway through it. I don't know where you guys are at.
I'm like,
we're pretty close there.
Yeah.
Tell me, the retro, has it changed?
Got more peppery.
Yeah.
Yeah. That pepper you got is pretty pronounced.
Yeah, when
that's a live. That's a live. That's a live take
when the smoke goes in your nose.
Yeah. So when you retrohale this, you might sneeze a couple times.
So that's,
but it's quite lovely.
Comment on. I'm about to do the same thing.
Right.
I don't sneeze when I retro. I sneeze when the cigar's just sitting in the ashtray and the smoke just drifts.
No, Nate, when you get down further on this, I know you smoked this before.
Jonathan Herring confirmed Tyler's is longer. Sorry.
Wait, what are we talking about?
Jonathan, do that in there. Thank you, Johnny. I appreciate you, pal.
I mean, I assume he's seen yours, but he hasn't really seen.
He may not have seen you.
So
the camera adds 10 pounds, right?
I just think mine was maybe blocked.
It may have been.
On the audio, this might sound weird.
I love you guys.
That's what you guys were doing in my house when I was out here, when you guys were both here. That's cool. No, I was going to say the retro, where it has cleaner finish. Nate, as you get further into it, I'm curious if you will notice, like what Tyler said, when I did it right after him with the retro hail, it's a longer finish. The nose does not just stop.
Okay.
In my opinion, like you're
just spot on.
Yeah. Now you're really getting.
And now you're getting
peppery,
now it's starting to
finish.
taper down into a smaller
ring gauge
and stuff like that. And it concentrates on those ligeros that we placed in there. And you just get a lot more of that boldness as it smokes down. It's funny. I'm talking like this. Like I haven't smoked a ton of these already, which I have.
But you sit and you talk about it like this, though. I think you do notice a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
You really, you're taking the time to kind of like concentrate on it. Avi had a question for you, Tyler. If you know, how does Eric like this cigar, as he doesn't love the peppery BS Silver? Every time that Eric smokes the BS Silver, which is made by Espinosa Cigars, and he doesn't smoke it very often because you guys don't keep a whole lot. I know Hector usually grabs a few or whatever.
Right.
But every time he does it, he just almost not chokes, but he's just like, damn, that's a fucking pepper bomb.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not necessarily for him. I think he's more the medium-bodied guy.
Eric stays in his realm where he likes the Laranja Reserva Espinosa Habano. He likes the new Espinosa Link that we just came out with, which is our new lounge exclusive.
He loves the knuckle sandwich Habano more than the Maduro.
Oh, of course he does. Yeah, Eric's his wheelhouse is more that medium. He smokes the fuller stuff, but he it's funny. We actually made a cigar for Benny's It's called Cosmic Nights. Benny's Beverage Depot, if anyone doesn't know, it's a chain of liquor and tobacco stores in the Chicago area or all of Illinois. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're
Benny's.
Yeah, they're all over
most
Illinois.
of the northern half of the state, if I'm not mistaken. Most of it
They've
is
got 'em
Chicago
spread out,
suburbs,
like in-
but it's like down Champaign as well. And
yeah. And so we did a cigar for them called Cosmic Nights, and it had a really dark Habano wrapper. It's still that Habano wrapper that Eric absolutely loves. And I was out at the offices for a sales meeting. He had one in his mouth every time he was sitting down playing dominoes. I mean, he was smoking the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And that was a really nice, like medium plus. Lean more medium plus than medium. And but it's that Habano wrapper. Eric just has an affinity for Habano, and that's probably why. If you look at a lot of our blends in our portfolio, we got a lot of Habano. But with the great thing with the Habano wrapper is you could do so much with the fillers. The fillers are way more important of a factor with a Habano wrapper because it's a little bit thinner. It's not as much of the predominant flavor like Nicaraguan broadleaf, Connecticut broadleaf, or Mexican San Andre, and all those different thicker, heavier wrappers.
Yeah. But even like your 601 green, I know he loves that one.
Yeah,
that's
especially in the Corona.
That's
Corona
a full-bodied cigar, but he seems, again, there is a what you guys call Habano Rosado Oscuro wrapper on that, and he loves that cigar. He even said with like knuckle sandwich, like when we were talking about doing one of them at the 10 event, I think the first year that we did the knuckle sandwich, he said, well, the Maduro is probably going to be more popular. I love the Habano.
Right, and we ended up doing the Maduro.
Yeah. So. But he knows. He's the one that, obviously will say that he makes cigars for business reasons. I mean, he loves, he can smoke whatever he wants, but he makes stuff that he thinks will sell well to different demographics of the smokers.
And he's the guy who
different preferences of the smokers.
He has his preferences, but at the end of the day, Eric Espinosa will not come out of the cigar or continue making a cigar that he does not like or he can't smoke.
Yeah,
because he's got his name on the brand, and he has that philosophy, and which I applaud him for. I mean,
his name is on it.
I mean, if he has a cigar that doesn't sell well, he's got to be able to smoke them. Someone in our office has got to be able to smoke them. If it just doesn't turn out right, sales wise or something like that.
Yeah.
So we really do stuff that that fits our palates and stuff like that. And Hector loves the heavier stuff with the Brazilian Matafina like Laranja Oscuro. Jack is strictly a Connecticut guy. It seems like anymore. He smokes crema and our E-bundle Connecticut like crazy.
Yeah.
Which is actually a great Connecticut for the price point. And then Eric's the Habano guy, and then the rest of the team is pretty much, we love everything. It's we'll smoke whatever, And I'm not a Connecticut guy, but I smoke the crema like religiously, and that's just a great Connecticut. Steve loves that. Knuckle Sandwich Connecticut, which we released earlier this year.
That this morning.
That cigar is just absolutely epic.
I smoked the short Churchill of that this afternoon.
Oh, that short Churchill is sexy, man. That's the size in that blend for sure. That the Robusto.
I may have to order some of the Connecticut short Churchill for my humidor, just that way I can buy them.
Right. Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
I do want to shout out to Ray. I don't think he's going to be with us the whole time. He is now in the UK. He wasn't going to be listening. He listens every week, typically from Vietnam. It's 4:30 a.m. where he's at right now. So I don't think he's smoking, although he did say he's in the lounge. So maybe, I don't know, Ray, are you smoking? I also want to know, are you going to be here the whole time for part 2? Because your topic that you had messaged me was also brought up on today's feed. So I want to know if we should cover that with you listening tonight in part 2 or hold off until you're going to be around for that. Oh, he's in Dubai. I'm sorry.
Dubai. Oh, beautiful.
On his way to UK, I think.
Dubai Airways.
Could be.
Isn't that an airline? Dubai Airways?
Yeah, probably.
Or is it someone?
He says got to listen to you guys from the lounge, so he might be in the airport.
Yeah, he's in the airport listening, so he's not going to be able to listen while he's on the plane.
I don't know. Sorry, I know he's headed to the UK. Anyways, sorry I brought it up, Ray. It's like
apparently he's going to Amsterdam.
Right? Yeah, that sounds like a good time.
All right,
I wonder what the weather is.
Good to see you, Ray.
I wonder what the weather's like.
Emirates Airlines
this time of the year.
I have no idea.
Never been there.
Me neither. Cool
Story.
Trying to give a shout out and I just get corrected constantly. That's cool. Neat. Good to have him on.
Sounds like normal.
It does sound like normal.
Sounds normal for this podcast.
Try to do something nice. Call out a listener and give them props.
Give them an inch. They take a foot.
Like, oh, you're an idiot.
Mile.
Cool. Make like a tree and get out of here.
But he loves you.
Evidently, he tunes in every week.
Aw.
Aw.
All right. So what do we can keep talking.
Oh, he's going to be there for the next 3 hours.
There you go.
So, all right. He's
Maybe.
got us the whole
Fucking
time.
cheers, pal.
Cheers. Hopefully they're serving.
Right. Yeah.
So Tally, you brought something this week. You brought something from them one of the last times you were on.
So when me and Hector were on, we were on our during the colder times, of the
December.
fall. Is that December?
It was November, December. Remember, because we looked it up and I posted it, which December I get backed up for sure with the busier season.
It was probably November. Yeah, it
Late
was
November,
November.
yeah.
When we did Azulejo, actually, when we focused on that cigar, because that was pretty new at the time. I had Hector with me, and I brought it was the Smoke Wagon, either small batch or just their normal American whiskey or their normal whiskey.
I want to say
bourbon.
small batch, but
It may have been the small batch, which was fantastic. I think we both really fell in love with that. Hector got a little banged up that episode, so he really liked it.
yeah, he did.
Shout out to Hector. But so I brought a different variation of Smoke Wagon. So I've always been a fan of the Smoke Wagon Uncut.
Yeah.
And I was at Binny's, actually bringing them up.
Yeah.
I was at Binny's last week when I was touring around the Chicago area, seeing our retail partners over there. And I was I saw that they had Smoke Wagon, and I was like, okay, let's do the Uncut. And then I saw this version, which was the Uncut,
The
Younger, which I was like, what the hell is this? I'm
Yeah.
like, I've never seen this before. And so, I was like, screw it. I knew I couldn't find anything in your feed on the iTunes podcast section. I guess that's what I was looking under.
Here you go. You know what I was talking about.
I just smacked the mic with my mouth. And so I was like, all right, let's give this a try, because it was half the price. And I'm like, okay, I've drank plenty of the normal uncut. So I'm like, I haven't had this. So it took a little selfishness in that. And I was like, I want to try this. So I grabbed this. This was $45 over there.
Okay.
Which I think I looked at Carfagna's yesterday, and it was the same price,
so,
right?
Well, yeah. So Ohio's price controlled. In the state of Ohio, this is going to be $42.99 plus tax.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So yes, so similar price point. But this is another uncut, barrel proof version of the Uncut, just a younger, not as old whiskey in it.
Yeah.
As the normal Uncut. So I picked this up. It's 57.62% alcohol volume.
So about 115.2.
Yeah. So which I can't really remember what the normal Uncut ranges.
Well, I mean, they change
right
with
like I saw
single
Jonathan
batch.
Herring had this bottle, and his was a little bit of a higher. I think his was 58.
So his was about 116.
Yeah.
Usually the Uncut Unfiltered, they're trying to go for around that 118 mark is what they're shooting for. But yeah, this actually started because the owner of Smoke Wagon, Aaron, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Chepenik, Chepenik.
It's a good guess.
Chepenik is my guess.
That's a good educated guess right there.
So back in 2020, like he was trying to come up with a younger version of the Uncut Unfiltered,
something that's a little bit more readily available, possibly.
Yes,
More affordable, also.
Well,
right.
So when it first came out, it was rare and limited. So it was the Smoke Wagon like RNL. It was rare and unlimited, or rare and limited. But it was coming in at the same price point as the Uncut Unfiltered. And so he knew if he was going to if he was going to keep releasing that particular product, it was never going to be cheaper than the Uncut Unfiltered. So in 2021 is when he came out with this. This is about a 4-year. It's an MGP high rye bourbon that basically he's buying the barrels, having them shipped to
Las Vegas, right?
Vegas, into their rick house, their storage facility.
Right.
They age there, and then they bottle them. So
they do some awesome stuff. I mean, Jake Sanders, shout out to Jake, Crown
Jake.
Head Cigars. He's the one who turned me on to the brand as a whole.
So
we went through like half a bottle at his place when he lived in Indianapolis,
Yeah.
or actually it may have been close to a full bottle of the normal Uncut.
I would
We
guess closer to full.
Yeah.
Knowing his track record, yeah, I would,
Yours too.
well, yeah, I can't deny that. And so we went through a ton of that, especially when he lived over there. So we were always big fans of that. So I didn't know if he even had this version yet.
So back in July, Aaron was actually at Carfagna's doing a bottle signing, and Jake actually showed up with his dad, and
oh, that's awesome.
they each
Nice.
bought a bottle and had Aaron sign it. we were hoping
Pretty eccentric guy, from what I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah. We were hoping to be able to do a tasting, but the person who handles the applications for because you actually have to get approved by the state to do a tasting on site. And they had sent in the request.
Gotta love local government.
Unfortunately, the person who handles those requests was out of country and their phone got stolen. So they didn't actually see the request until they got back. And by then it was too late to be able to get the approval. So they literally just showed up to do a bottle signing.
God forbid someone has a backup of someone's role in a business. This whole philosophy of like, well, you're on vacation, but you're not. It's like, no, I'm on vacation. So
Find
any
someone
applications for this are going to go to you for the next week. Okay. Business goes on.
Right.
God forbid any business anymore can fucking function without someone there.
Yeah, this is a part 2 discussion
All
right
right,
here.
that's just-
Let's save that for part 2.
It's a hot topic.
That's
there,
a hot
right?
topic. We
It's a
can
hot
dive
button.
into that.
It's a hot button.
Yeah, we can dive into that if you want a little bit later.
So, Steve, you're familiar with the Redemption High Rye bourbon?
Yeah.
So that's also an MGP source product. This is the same mash bill as that.
Okay.
It is
Really?
60% corn, 36% rye, and then 4% malted barley. So this is, and that particular mash bill is a very popular one with MGP.
Okay.
That's one that they source out quite a bit. But then each company that is sourcing that, they're going to age it their way,
Sure,
their location, and they're going to bottle it at whatever proof they want.
I've said it before, there was a time where not too long ago, we were doing the podcast where like people knew about MGP, you know what I mean? But people weren't like really advertising it as much. And now it's commonplace, I think, for companies like Smoke Wagon that they source, they put on there distilled in Indiana, and the bourbon market has gotten so popular that most people, when they see distilled in Indiana, they just know it's an MGP product. Plus all the, blogs and everything, you can look into that, but there's a lot of credibility behind it now.
Oh, for sure.
There's no really, I'm sure there's a lot of opinionated people in the bourbon world, but I'm just saying.
Really? Oh, who would have
Almost,
thought?
actually more than the cigar world anymore, in my opinion.
I think so. I definitely think.
But yeah, I think that this is something now that this is almost like a badge of like, this is solid. This should be a solid product, but they're putting their own spin on it, like you're saying, Nate, as far as, it even says on there distilled in Indiana, but it's aged and bottled in Las Vegas.
So like even the uncut unfiltered, which is basically that version of their small batch blend, what they do with that is they store those barrels like in the top 2 floors of their warehouse, and they don't rotate them at all.
Where in Vegas are they? Is this climate controlled?
You would hope.
Because it's fucking the desert.
Right. Yeah.
So
I don't think-
they get
House
some
in the desert doesn't really sound like.
But remember, they get
ideal area, right?
Well, they do get some cold nights,
but that's not enough time, I don't think, for like the fluctuations like a season, right?
Well, but like in the upper floors of their warehouse, like they talk about even on their website, the upper floors of their warehouse, they want it up there because the heat is going to cause that barrel to expand more.
Yeah.
And so the whiskey is going to penetrate deeper into the staves.
Okay.
And because they don't rotate it, they're not messing around with any of the tannins or anything like that that's in the barrel.
I mean, are there people that do that, like in Arizona and like New Mexico, where it's hot as fuck?
Well, like
down
we had Still Austin. We had Still Austin on back in 2020. I think that was the episode Steve was sick with COVID.
Yeah. For the day.
Yeah. So it was Dustin and I doing the Still
Take
Austin.
zinc, everyone.
We didn't want to reschedule because we actually had someone from Still Austin on the podcast. So Dustin and I did that interview, and we were drinking that bourbon that they do, and we're looking at
where are they based out of?
Austin,
Texas.
Yes,
Massachusetts.
Texas.
That's why they're called Still Austin. But
that was some guy's name.
wait.
I thought his first name was Still, and then his last name was Austin.
Could be. I know.
Or her, or her,
Austins.
or her. It could be either one.
Whatever.
but
Right? Still could be a female name.
but no, we were looking at the
Multiple. Never mind. Go on, Nate,
we were
please.
looking at the color of the juice in the bottle. It has this really dark caramel color to it, and
Well, if you ever look at any of the Balcones stuff, holy
oh,
shit!
super rich in flavor. And then ask the guy, like, I got to ask, like, how old is this stuff? Because this is drinking like, a good 6 to 8 year, 2 years. Because of their climate being so severe, where they get even hotter summers than we do, but their winters can get, almost just as cold as ours.
This summer, for sure.
Yes, this summer for sure. Jonathan Herring was excited that the overnight low got to 76 last night. But no, having that greater variety of temperature, the whiskey ages faster in the barrel because there's getting more interaction. It's squeezing out just as much, but it's also penetrating deeper into the barrel stage.
Isn't part of it, though, the flex the other way also helps, right, with the aging in Kentucky? The flex the other way.
So, like, Kentucky and Ohio, you have your, 0 degree days. You have your 90 to 100 degree days. So stuff, is typically going to be at least 4 years, 6 years old in a lot of those. With the Texas ones, because they're getting 100 to 120, that barrel's expanding even more. Okay. So it's getting more flavor from the wood, more color, because again, every bourbon, every whiskey, all the color comes from the barrel. So the deeper it penetrates into the barrel staves, the more color and the more flavor you're going to get from the barrel.
Is there more lost bourbon in those hotter climates?
You can.
Is there more leakage out of barrels in that kind of climate because it expands so much?
You can get more leakage. You can get more evaporation. When we had the two Columbus Fire guys on, like, they do their own.
Brad and Eric,
they do their own barreling. So they had sourced some local whiskey that never got barreled or sold, and they were putting it in like 20-liter barrels. They were doing some 5-liter, some 3-liter barrels, and they noticed, like, one of the barrels, like 3 months later, they had already lost like 25% of the barrel.
Yeah.
Wow. Because of where they were storing it. It got so hot that it was aging too quickly. So
what do you guys think of this?
I think it's okay. It's probably my least favorite bottle I've actually brought on the podcast.
Okay.
Wow.
I mean, I don't mean to slam it by any means, but
no, I mean, what do you think? I mean, why? What are you getting out of it? I mean, they have their description even on the back of the bottle, but I mean, like, what are you getting out of? You say it's okay. It's not bad.
I mean,
right?
It's really aggressive on the nose. Really aggressive on the nose. I mean, I think it opens up the nostrils quite nicely.
Pungent.
It's pungent, but
stings the nostrils.
See, Sean just coughed like he just coughed up a lung over there from sniffing it.
Big sniff of Sex Panther.
But
I mean, there is a lot of ethanol on the nose,
right? And you get that, like, I'm not really crazy about that kind of.
So one thing that helps with that, a little trick,
water
before you actually sniff it, breathe into the glass, and that'll blow off some of those alcohol vapors. Then
give it a shot.
Then sniff it.
The old blow and sniff.
Blow and sniff.
What?
Oh, fuck.
They can do that on his store for the. All right, next thing we're gonna do is the old blow and sniff. What?
I have explained that to some people.
No, you got to call it that from now on.
The blow and sniff.
The old Nate Hale blow and sniff here.
No, it's got that.
That'll be with Nate's notes, like what I read last week.
It's got that, it's got the spice from the rye. It's got that little dash of sweetness. I kind of would prefer a little bit more of a pungent sweetness on it. And it's kind of the complexity's not there, in my opinion, like the normal uncut is. Now, granted, the normal uncut's like double the fucking price, but so you're probably gonna get a little bit more complexities out of it.
Well, it's also older.
But I mean, I don't hate it. It's just you get a lot of heat on it, and it's kind of like, okay, you got a little bit of like some spice, you got some heat to it.
I think
and it's kind of it.
I think a lot of that cinnamon spice and that heat, though, is on the finish.
It is.
And it's a very short finish too.
Up front, it does have a nice little sweetness, nice little fruitiness to it up front. It's got a nice texture to it as well, and that's because it's unfiltered.
Yes,
so it does have a good mouth.
It's going to have a little bit more oil to it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the finish there where it's almost like conflicting notes. You got a little bit of the cinnamon in the finish, like a little bit of heat, And then I think there's a little bit, I'm trying to think, it's not necessarily apple, but there's definitely some fruit.
Yes.
There's some fruit there. So you got cinnamon, you have fruit. There's a faint like honey / vanilla to me. But when people say it tastes young, that's kind of, this finish is like a little bit bright with a little, like we mentioned before, I think on a similar, I don't remember what bottle it was, but we had the where it was like that lemon herb Ricola. You've had those, right? And
Right,
you kind of like, you're like, it kind of tastes good, but it doesn't.
Right.
That's kind of where I'm at on the finish on this, is that you're like, oh, these flavors are good, and then it's like they're really not hitting together. Is the way I'm like, I like the beginning. I like the start of the sip. It's the finish is, it's not bad. It's just kind of, there's a conflict there, I think, in the way that those flavors hit all together to me.
Like I said it before, I was just drinking it, and then I was like, I need to light the cigar because I must not be tasting this right. And as I lit it, now pairing wise, I actually don't hate it. It's actually a decent pairing,
especially if you go cigar to the whiskey.
Right, if you go cigar to the whiskey, you still got the the lingering effects of the cigar, and it complements the whiskey very well.
Get a little more sweetness out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. And so that was actually quite nice because I was like disappointed as shit when I first tried it. I'm like, oh, this is not anywhere near like what I was expecting kind of deal. But when I lit the cigar up and started, drinking it and I was smoking, it's quite pleasant. But if I was just sitting here drinking this, I'd probably be upset.
It's not overwhelming though as a pairing, even though this is coming in around 116 proof. We're smoking a
pretty full
body cigar that's got some spice to it. It's not overpowering together.
Right. They complement each other.
You also got to remember like what the point of this bottle is. So you have the uncut, unfiltered, which retail in the state of Ohio is $79.99.
Big words.
So it's an $80 bottle. This is coming in at $42.99.
Right.
So it's $27 cheap or $37 cheaper.
Right.
So the purpose of this product is to be more of that daily barrel proof style of
I would
whiskey.
make this in an old fashioned all day. I think this in an old fashioned would be fantastic.
It might be too sweet.
But it's got the heat to it. Because I typically like a little bit hotter old fashions. I like using higher proof stuff.
Up to anything you're throwing at it, like the cherries, the simple syrup. The
bitters,
for
sure. I think it would complement those very well, and that would kind of cover up what it's kind of lacking in my eyes.
Well, I don't know if it'll cover up, but it'll just add other flavors and complexity to it.
That's a better way of putting it, for sure.
They say on the back of this,
that's why you look at liquors.
Fruit forward with lots of candy flavors, cinnamon spice, and plenty of heat.
See, I don't know what kind of candy flavors they're speaking about.
That's just the overall sweetness, I think.
I mean, it's going down. It's going down pretty nice. It goes good with the cigar, so I can't be too upset with it. But like I said, I just compared to the other stuff that we've had with me on here, it's a little underwhelming.
I think this is the type of bottle, like if you see it at a bar, you like Smoke Wagon stuff. Say you didn't buy the bottle, but you were like, Tyler travels a lot, so if you're at a bar or like one of your hotel bars or whatever, and you're like, oh, I haven't had that Smoke Wagon yet.
Yeah.
Let me try it. Based on what you're saying, what I'm getting is that you probably wouldn't order a second glass of it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this is okay. I'm going to try something different.
I'd rather have Jack Daniels.
Oh, wow.
Well,
but I'm a Jack Daniels fan.
Stay in Ohio this week, and you might be lucky enough to find some of those Jack Daniels single barrel state picks that are being released. Yeah.
Ooh. You have to let me know about those. Shoot me a text. Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of Jack Daniels. I think their branding is one of the most iconic looks in branding in any type of branding and marketing
just
history.
A black label, right?
It's just classic, traditional kind of look to it. But back in those days, that was like flair, probably. You know what I mean? When it came to like whiskey.
Yeah, black and white. It had like the little
it's got like the Johnny Cash kind of vibe to it.
I think Johnny Cash took that away from that on some of, or maybe not Johnny Cash, but his average, like the Johnny Cash Museum in Nashville or whatever. You see their type of logo on like Johnny Cash stuff, like other things. Absolutely.
So
it's very iconic.
I think that's one of the most iconic brands when it comes to branding. And I like the whiskey. I never had that moment like that a lot of people have where they drink too much Jack and they kind of ruined them forever. Nate knows the situation about another product that kind of did that to me, but which I still drink to this day, shockingly. That was the good old.
Varsity.
Those are the good old COVID days.
years when we
Those
were
are the COVID, shut down
yeah, we were
years.
No one's driving anywhere.
No, so you're this is
For another.
yeah.
for another.
When we were doing the Facebook Hangouts
oh
Yeah.
or
God.
Google
Kinda
Hangouts, yeah,
May have helped out with this T-shirt. Pour one more, light up another. We'll figure this out together.
yeah.
that was a very good timing for that shirt.
Well, I was drinking. So.
Right. I think all of us were.
Steve, did you read the Latin that's underneath the logo?
I don't know Latin, but I do see it.
So read it out.
Bibimus moriendum est. Do I have to say it faster to make sense?
Drink, for we must die.
And there's two.
I just became more of a fan
Two
of the
guns.
product. I love that. I like that brand. I like that. That's a tattoo right there.
Yeah, I'm sure someone does have this tattoo.
Oh, I'm sure someone's got some.
No, I mean it is a beautiful bottle. I will say that it's classic, like wine bottle, and then it's got this one's gold.
I do like the branding.
It's gorgeous, and all their bottles, in my opinion, they have similar type look to
Yeah,
it. Right?
yeah, for sure.
But it is
they have like a red,
great
white,
job.
and blue, kind of like the Budweiser you
Yeah.
saw earlier, kind of freedom kind of look to it.
Yeah,
That was really cool on their normal classic bourbon or whatever, like their bottom line, whatever. It was like some addition. I saw. I'm like, is that special? And Nate's like, no, it's just some thing they did like one time. And I was like,
just,
okay, that's
just
cool.
limited edition label
Packaging
on it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of that was kind of cool.
yeah.
And the other thing that people in Ohio probably realize is, several years ago, this was not available in Ohio for the last few years. So
When did
like
it come to the market here?
So I had seen it pop up at meetups. When I would do the Bullets and Bourbon, someone had picked one of these up out of state and would bring it, and people would go nuts over it because it wasn't something that you could get in Ohio. We recently got this a couple months ago at the store, and we brought in all 5 offerings that are available in Ohio. So you've got their straight bourbon, this bottle here, you've got the small batch, the uncut unfiltered, and then there's an uncut malted rye that they do as well.
Yeah, I saw that rye yesterday
yep.
for the first time. I didn't even know they did a rye.
Yep. And so those are now regularly available in the state of Ohio. So liquor agencies can order them.
If I would have saw that rye probably at Benny's when I was there, I probably would have grabbed that over this.
Well, now you know.
But now I know.
Now you know.
Now I know to go to Cafranias.
There you go.
Or when you're at Benny's,
Or when I'm at, well, they didn't have
you'll
it.
probably see.
If I would have saw it, I would have bought it.
Fair.
They didn't have it.
Fair.
So
All right, so this is the part of the show in part 1 that we do the ratings, and so you do it's out of 10, and we have a rating for the whiskey, which is going to be the Smoke Wagon Uncut the Younger. We do the cigar, which is going to be the 601 La Bomba Warhead 9, and then one for the pairing on how you guys think it goes together for whatever your scale is.
Mhm.
So for those listening for the first time, we're going to start with Sean. Do you want to talk about the whiskey? I know you didn't have the cigar. We do have some people in the audience here. Try not to knock anything over. Steady hands.
We're trusting the mic to Kyle.
He's doing well.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. It's not a lighter. He's not going
Don't
to
do it. Don't
that's
do
a great.
it.
That's that lighter I was talking
I
about.
know. Leave a little thin
Yeah,
one.
that's a good lighter.
Sean.
I agree with Tyler on that. It's pretty basic. Like you got some sweet fruit notes in the front end. The back end's kind of got a little bit of a little heat to it. It does diminish pretty quickly, which is nice. I didn't get a chance to try the cigar, so with the whiskey, I'll say it's 7.
Okay.
It's not bad. It's like you said, maybe a good mixer, but nothing I'd probably go out and get.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Tyler, how about you? How about your ratings here? The whiskey, the cigar, and the pairing.
So the whiskey, I'd probably go with 7 on it. Just not my. Just a little underwhelmed. I'll just put it that way. But I think it's got with the cigar. So now I'm doing the cigar, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's
kind of the
when
order.
you're
the
ready.
format. That's the
when
format.
you're ready.
So yeah, I'll do a 7 on this. Cigar wise, I'll probably go because of the past Warheads that I've smoked and comparing this one to the other ones. I would say this is probably my favorite of them, actually,
Including the short one.
including the short one. I like this a little bit better because it burns longer.
Oh, sure.
So I'd probably go like a 9.4. I go a 9.4 on the cigar.
Very
And on
specific.
the, yeah, on the pairing, I would probably go because that pairing the cigar does bring out a lot more. I like this a lot better when I lit up the cigar, so I'd probably raise it up to like a 8.5.
Okay.
Overall.
What?
So Jonathan Herring had predicted Tyler's ratings. He said on the cigar it'd be a 9.5. Tyler said 9.4.
Close.
Whiskey 7, which is what Tyler said, and then pairing 8.5, which is what Tyler said.
My man. See, that's my brother from another mother right there. That's my dude right there. He knows me too well. Shout out to Johnny. He's probably dying right now.
Oh yeah. Ray even said, Jonathan, you're a psychic. He also said Tyler didn't bring you a cigar to Sean.
Listen, it's
Sean's
a limited
or
production.
Tyler
product,
smoked
Oh,
them
get
all.
out of here. Tyler smokes his samples. All right.
Oh, come on.
He's got to know the product. I'm saying he really knows his product. What's that? Sure. You got it, buddy. Yeah, I got you, man. I have a rep in the garage, but no, I got you. Nate, how about you?
The FDA made it illegal. Oh, wait, we don't have to worry about the FDA
Fuck 'em.
anymore. Hey,
Hey,
we
we talked about that last week.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Great win for the cigar industry. Kudos
Yes.
to everybody who did their part on Capitol Hill to help us, be free of FDA ruling. The fight's never over, but that was a good win for our industry, and we were super happy with that.
You got to think too. I don't know the ins and outs of that, but I think even the FDA was just like, we don't even know what the fuck we're looking at here.
Yeah.
Of course,
And
their
there's
judge
Premium
recognized
cigars, premium cigars.
And there are
like,
still a couple
what am I
things
supposed to do. Yeah, sure. It's criollo. How do you say that? Criollo.
that. They probably couldn't even pronounce Criollo.
That's the
Exactly,
joke.
yeah,
That's the
exactly.
joke. All right, Nate, your ratings.
I got the joke now. I got
Okay.
it now. Okay.
Thought it was pretty obvious, but
Attaboy, there
holy
you
shit,
go.
I just got that.
You got a good zinger right there.
Holy
Crane.
bartender.
Whiskey, I'm an
Took you
8.
after.
I'm an 8 on the whiskey. I think this is a good bottle, to be able to get a barrel proof coming in at $43. And it's got some good flavor. Yeah, it's a little hot and spicy on the finish, but you kind of almost expect that from something coming in at this proof point. So like it shouldn't be shocking that this tastes hotter than an 80 proof bottle or something that was finished in some other cask. Like you should expect this. I think they accomplished what they set out to do, and that was make an uncut that was more daily approachable in terms of the price point.
Yeah.
That's what they wanted. And like I said, it's coming in, almost half the price. So yeah, I think they did a good job with that. Cigar, I'm a 9 on the cigar.
What'd you say on the whiskey? I'm sorry, the rating.
8.
8. Okay.
8 on the whiskey.
9 on the cigar.
9 on the cigar. I think I actually may prefer the last 2 iterations of this more than this one.
This is just too much of a punch.
No, it's a little drier, I think, than the others. And then
Nine's still very good. I'll
yeah,
take
yeah.
9.
And then being that figurado with that tip on it, yeah, if you want, you can just cut that off. So that way it's smoking fine right from the get-go.
Did you cut yours off?
Nope.
No, you smoked the tip.
Yep. Which it is a little tight at the beginning, but again, that's also one of the reasons why when I smoke this, I try and do a V cut, because if you do a straight cut and you light that small tip of it, you're going to think, oh man, this is way too tight and I need to cut more off. And then you end up cutting more off. And by the time it hits the bulb of the cigar, now it's too light of a draw. So,
Come on.
Yeah.
There it is.
so I do like this one. But like I said, I think I liked the flavor of the last 2 a little bit more. So still a 9 on this cigar. And then pairing, I give the pairing an 8. I think going cigar to whiskey brings out a little bit more of the sweetness up front on the whiskey. It almost has like a hard candy type of flavor to it up front. But if you go whiskey to cigar, the spice, there's not a lot of spice on the palate of the cigar, but when you drink the whiskey and then go to the cigar, it amplifies that spice on the palate a little too much. But going cigar to whiskey, it definitely brings out more of that sweetness.
Yeah, for me, it's Jonathan. I did see your ratings. I'm not going against that out of principle. I literally am thinking you gave me too much credit, or not. You thought I gave the bottle a higher rating. I do. I'm back there with like a 7 on the bottle. It's fine. I mean, it's not a sipper, like, and I think of like, an uncut, like we're coming in, what was it? 50.
116.2 somewhere.
So
right
yeah,
now.
I mean, you're at a barrel strength 116. I mean, I expect it to be a little bit, a lot of oomph to it, but I mean, for me, it's not my flavor profile. I said it earlier in the show, is that it's kind of conflicting flavors as this thing finishes for me. It's at first it's like okay, and then you swallow and you're tasting everything as it's kind of finishing, and I'm like, well, that's. To Tyler's point, actually, when he first took a sip, he was really disappointed. He's like, I need to light up the cigar because maybe I'm not tasting this right in a sense. And I think they're not wrong with the fruit forward, the candy flavors, the cinnamon. That's there. I don't care for it. I'd be interested to try. I'll say this. I'll be interested to try like with Jonathan's being a different proof. So therefore it's a different batch.
Right.
Now you're talking with these, I assume they're small batches. And not single barrels, right? Is that what we're doing here, Nate?
Yeah. So
it's a small batch, not a single barrel.
Yeah. So
correct?
this is gonna be a blend of several barrels. So and the proof is the average proof combined of that batch.
So I would be interested to, if like say we had another bottle here, to do a taste comparison between the two of them. Maybe this one, the way it finishes with those, to me, the conflicting flavors, that may not be present as much in Jonathan's. I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, 7. What did I say? 7. Yeah. The cigar, I like this cigar. It's not my favorite Espinosa, and I know you can't compare it to the rest of the portfolio. This is not for everyone. This is it's amped up, right? And that's the whole point of this thing.
Right. Yeah.
You already call it the La Bomba. That's your strongest cigar. Then you call this the Warhead. I expect a lot of punch to it. I love the size. I love the Vitola. I love the Figurado. I like that smoking experience. I always have. I said that earlier as well.
Right.
I'll give the cigar an 8.5 because, for me, this is something like Tyler, you said you can smoke 2 of these back to back. I don't.
Actually, now that I'm about to finish this one up, I don't know if I could.
That's this is a great cigar. I say 8.5 just because this, it is like, I think the Nicaraguan broadleaf, and I would love to talk to Hector about that. Nicaraguan broadleaf versus some Connecticut broadleaf.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if that's why, but I do think it's a little bit drier than some Connecticut broadleaf cigars. It's almost pushing like the San Andreas Mexican type of that to me.
Almost like a hybrid.
Yeah, it's like but it has that kind of like drier type finish, but it might also be the filler of the La Bomba regular line of the filler and binder. I don't know, but it's a great cigar. 8.5 for me, just because it's like 9, 9.5, 10. That's I can't smoke this all the time. I will say this though, this being a once a year release is perfect because when it does come out, I'm excited about this. If you put this blend out, and I see it from the retail side, we haven't carried the 601, the yellow La Bomba,
right,
in a while because it doesn't seem to have, at least from our vantage point and from my personal opinion, the staying power to be a cigar that is a go-to cigar for a lot of people. It's I want a strong cigar. Have you had this?
Right.
They smoke it. I liked it. Do you want another one? What else do you have?
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's where this coming out in the strategy of a limited edition, it's brilliant because when it comes out, I'm excited. I'm going to smoke it. I haven't had one in about 8, 10, 12, whatever months.
Right. Yeah.
Let's go. Let's see what this one smokes like. And I've enjoyed the couple that I've had, including this one. So that's why 8.5 is a really good, I think, score for a limited edition cigar, in my opinion. The pairing, I'm an 8. The cigar helps out the whiskey.
Yeah, 100%.
In my opinion, for that's just for me.
I'm intrigued to see how it goes with Azulejo.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, because Azulejo doesn't. It has that nicotine that this probably does, but it's not as robust.
Smoother.
It's a lot smoother. It's a little bit nuttier. So
yeah,
I'm
nuttiness.
I think that Brazilian Arapiraca we use in the blend will. I think I'm interested to see how that works with this. I might rate the pairing on that.
No,
on this part 2
for sure. Jonathan, for the record, who is drinking a different batch of the same bottle, but also the same cigar. He says 8 on the whiskey, 9.5 on the cigar, 8.5 on the pairing. So we have a rating.
And he also said he's going to buy several more of these and put them in the humidor.
There you go.
So
there you go.
My man.
You got to love it when industry people support one another.
100%. 100%. We do have some questions we can talk about briefly in part 2 from the cigar side. We might be able to hit a couple of those. And then we do have several good comments and topic suggestions for part 2. But as we round out, I do want to thank our sponsors. Espinosa Cigars is always a big supporter, and obviously Tyler, and we've had Eric on, we've had Hector on, we've had Jack on. I mean, we've had a big part of your crew on this show before, but our other sponsors, Tinder Box at Easton, where you can find a good chunk of your portfolio.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, hopefully, Tinder Box is one of the biggest supporters and accounts in the Columbus area, but I mean, there's a good selection of Tinder Box at Easton and Espinosa Cigars, whether it's Eric, Hector, or Tyler. They're always available for events, especially the big Smoking 10 event. And Eric's been there. He couldn't come last year, but I mean, he's been there since year 2. Big supporter of Tinder Box at Easton, and we support you guys too. So check them out for the Espinosa Cigars, including the Warhead 9, what's left of them. And then also Altadis USA, we appreciate it. We normally, I brought some Monte Cristo Espada Oscuros made by Plasencia for part 2, in case you didn't have a part 2 cigar. I didn't want to, just assume that you're going to bring them. So we're going to smoke those, but they just sent some great limited stuff they'll be featuring over the next year with this year's sponsorship. So thank you, Maria, for making that happen out there. Might even get her on. I got Charlie Ward, who's the Altadis rep in the area now. He's going to be on in September. We're trying to get Josh Bentley from Altadis to come back on. It should be a lot of fun with those guys supporting us another year.
Oh, yeah.
BS Cigar Company, the gold and silver. The silver's made by Espinosa. The gold's made by Plasencia. Check those out as well. Fantastic. The BS Silver made by Espinosa is a peppery cigar, especially in that what we call the Rabito size. That's your guys's, which is a 6x42, and then or 6x46, excuse me. And then you
I would
also
have loved
the
to
Toro.
try that in the Kaixa.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, box press.
That would be awesome.
I picked the Rabito when I did that special project for Brian's 20th. We're on the 25th now, but we're hoping to have a new BS by the 10 event, so we'll see. And also, you guys, patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. You guys can contribute on a monthly basis. We're also Venmo at Bourbon and BS. And we appreciate you guys buying all the swag at buyjack.com/Bourbon and BS. Guys, cheers. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. Take a quick intermission, and we'll stay live for those of those tuning in here live. But click to part 2. Listen to the Let's Hear from the Audience. Once again, this week, got some great topics that we're going to be going over. Guys, happy Whiskey Wednesday. See you in a few.
So Jonathan Herring asked a great question. Tyler, what's your favorite Forged cigar?
It's not that great of a question.
That's a great question. And it's
a question.
You know what's funny? I'm a big fan of Matt Booth, which was actually his birthday this week. So happy birthday, Matt! If you find this podcast at some point, great human being. I met him a long time ago, and we actually had a cool little interaction at the show this year. And he's like, "Man, it's crazy, seeing how far you've come since I first met you and stuff like that." And Matt's always, I've always had a soft spot in my heart for Matt Booth. So actually, I would say Farce Maduro, out of his portfolio, is probably my favorite Forged cigar. It's almost a triple Maduro kind of style smoke. I think it's like the filler is like 50% Connecticut broadleaf, and then the other 50% the filler is Pennsylvania broadleaf with a Mexican San Andreas wrapper and an Indonesian binder. Wow, I can't believe I still remember that.
That's impressive.
That cigar is awesome, especially in its Papi Chulo size. It's a little Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's like a 4x42 or a 5x42. It's one of those sizes. That cigar is epic. I always gave Matt his props for that blend, and even the stuff he did with Caldwell back in the day was good, but that's not in the Forge portfolio. So, but yeah, I'd probably say Farce Maduro would be probably my favorite Forge line. So, Jonathan, if you have any laying around, you know my address. And if you don't, I can always hook you up with that. So,
see, I love Matt Booth. I like his cigars.
I said, do you want to tell
we
everybody?
Used to carry.
Yeah.
We used to carry some Room 101, man.
Sure, bro.
But yeah, it's kind of been lost at the Tinder Box at Easton. I'd love to support Matt. It's just he's even been to the shop years ago. Met him, and yeah, just a great guy and some good stuff. But with the transitions between Room 101 and then it was with Davidoff and Camacho and all that stuff, and then it was now with Forged. It's hopefully we'll see some things come back for sure.
Yeah, he.
Jonathan says Matt wants on the show. I'd love to have him on the show for sure.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to have him on.
Matt's entertaining cigars.
I almost give him that disclaimer just because it's unfortunate that like we haven't really picked him back up. You know what I mean? Because I know
that whole Farce line is
Brian
fantastic.
loves him too. It's just it went between I don't know if I'm getting this right, but between Room 101. Then it was, Room 101 with Davidoff owning it, and like with the whole Caldwell years. And then it was,
I think it was more of a distribution.
it just
deal
got
with
like
those guys.
boutique. It's always been boutiquey, but like people love them, but it just isn't. It never really. We had a little stint there where it was really good, and then between the ups and downs and all that stuff, it didn't sell, which is a shame. Absolutely.
Oh, we got.
Oh, God damn it! Let me take care of that here.
Ooh, let me read.
No, now it's just going to be this person comments on everything.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, and that'll just spam it all. We'll do that real quick.
Giant Tobacco Nut was really good. I smoked that. Who gave me one of those? Someone gave me one of those at a shop I was at. Oh, I was actually on my way back to go to my mother's house in Akron, and my boy Matty over at Havana House in Bath, he actually gave me like a pre-release of the Giant Tobacco Nut. That cigar was fantastic, Johnny. I really like that cigar. That was really good. Nice Connecticut.
I don't think I've smoked the newest Tobacco Nut, or what is it?
Yeah, Giant Tobacco Nut.
Yeah. Let's see if I can get rid of this person here. There's me. Joycey.
Go away.
You gone.
She gone.
Banned from the page. She gone.
Man, she got like 4 comments in there.
Yeah,
At least.
that's why we get rid of it.
Way to get on that, Steve.
Got to, man. Try to. Wear a lot of hats on the community, you know what I mean? All right, let me go and pull up these part 2
So
comments.
I did. Ray did take a shot at me about
Jack Daniels.
Jack Daniels,
Sure
and
did.
I get a lot of shit for that but
Sure
for whatever
did.
reason, but I also get a lot of shit for liking Nickelback. So it's the same kind of thing.
I mean, yeah, you do.
Like Nickelback was my childhood, so like I'm a huge fan. So like,
Classic rock, bro.
oh bro, they were like
Oh God.
the All the Right
No,
Reasons album with the
no.
car either driving away or it was coming towards. That was my first CD I ever bought as a kid, and that CD, like, I wore that thing to the ground in my first vehicle I
You
had.
can't wear out a CD, man. You just scratch it.
Well, it got scratched up a little bit apparently. The Dark Horse album, that album's got some bangers in it.
First topic for part 2: Tyler's terrible taste in music.
From Nickelback to terrible bro country.
Listen, it's
It's all right.
you can talk about my music taste all you want.
As long as you enjoy it.
I enjoy the shit out of it. So
Think about Nickelback. Even if you don't like them, you talk shit about it. You know at least the lyrics to at least one song.
oh, of course,
Guaranteed.
You know a plethora of their songs probably.
Plethora? I don't
You know,
know.
it's funny.
Plethora.
You talked about Jack Daniels. I had a customer at my first shop that he likes Jack Daniels. He goes, I can never drink it though. Especially, he goes, I can drink it at home. I can't drink it if I go out anywhere because if I drink Jack Daniels, I always want to fight somebody, and my dumbass always picks the biggest motherfucker in the bar.
Well, it
So-
sounds like a him problem more than
Yeah.
anything
A lot
else.
of
I had 2
deep-seated
pours
issues
last night.
there.
I wasn't about to fight anyone.
A lot of deep-seated issues that I think we need to handle before drinking Jack Daniels.
Right.
That's
Talk to
where
a
we're at
therapist,
there.
pal.
Yeah,
If you're watching
yeah.
this, seek help. There's no problem about it. If you watch the NFL, they tell you all about it.
No, he figured out the cure to it. Just don't drink Jack Daniels.
And also just bottle shit, like push it way down so
Right,
that it
yeah.
won't come up unless you drink Jack
Take
Daniels.
that shit home.
Perfect.
Take that shit home.
Maybe drink-
well, he's
theoretically
well,
take it
here's-
home.
He's,
All right, so here's
he's retired, so he's at home all the time.
Well,
Hopefully, he doesn't have Jack Daniels there,
right.
or else it means he married.
Well,
Yes.
I bet he loved Creed too. I did like it.
All right,
I like
now
Creed
we're just
too.
now we're just going down a rabbit hole here.
Scott Staff is back, and they're doing a reunion tour.
That's gonna be terrible.
Oh, it's gonna be epic. They better be coming to Indianapolis. I'm gonna be very upset if they don't. Oh, I can't wait. I think that's next year. But
The
I love
good
Creed.
news is, unless they're touring with someone else, like real easy to probably get a ticket.
I would like to see. I would like to see Stone Temple Pilots too, but you can't.
Oh, that's
you can't,
yeah.
Can't really do that.
No, you can't do that.
Can't do that.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Getting crazy. All right. This is great.
It's unbelievable. Like everybody shits on like my generation's music. Like everybody shits on Green Day,
What year were
Nickelback,
you
Creed,
born?
97.
97, and Nickelback's first album was what, 2001? Maybe 3?
Oh, I'll look that up.
I think it's 2001.
I think All the Right Reasons came out in All the Right Reasons, I think, came out in like 2003 or 5. Someone fact check that.
The band formed in 95.
Up in Alberta, right?
Yes.
Yeah. See, I know my shit.
Yeah, no, you're a huge Chad Kroger fan.
Kruger. It's Kruger.
It's spelled Kroger.
Their first album
You
came
forgot the umwas above the O.
Crazy
Apparently.
Canadians.
First
pronouncing
album
things
came
wrong.
out in 96.
96, really?
All the Right Reasons came out in 05.
Yeah, 05. See?
Jesus, now we got Green Day coming up from Ray. Yeah, geez.
See,
All right.
what's the problem with Green Day?
No, we're not doing a music podcast tonight. We'll have to do it next time you're on, though. I think this is always a fun one. We need to do a music podcast.
We need to do a
so
music podcast. for
check
sure.
your calendar. You're welcome back anytime.
Beautiful.
We
next
did
next one,
We did a music episode year 1.
Yeah.
we'll do another one because we got plenty of shit we can go through.
It's just all the good / bad music out there.
Hell yeah.
Fantastic. All right.
I'll come prepared. I'll bring notes.
Bring like a little like tape player.
Right.
I brought my my Discman.
My Walkman.
Do you guys have something I can plug this into? No, we don't. USB, what's that? I got a floater.
Where you had you had your Discman, and then you had the audio cable that went into the cassette tape to put that in your car.
I with my confirmation money, I bought the car Discman. It was like fucking like $250. It had like the anti-skip. It had a little bit of a shock to it.
Oh,
which
but boy,
kinda
did that
works.
kill battery.
And it also like came with the like Velcro for their dashboard.
Yes.
So you couldn't leave it on the dashboard. I bought that when I was 14. I didn't even have a car. I was like, this is what I need.
This is what I need. Right
Comes with
now.
the cigarette lighter thing and the tape. It was the steal.
Dude, I my first car I bought, I had it was a 1996 GMC Sonoma, piece of shit. you know?
Gorgeous.
It was awesome. I love that. It had a glass back. The whole shit was loud as fuck. I think it had a hole in it too, so it was even louder.
Likely.
It actually had a gas leak at one point too. That kind of I let that thing roll for a little too long. But I didn't have like a CD thing in there, so I had to buy like the cassette plug-in thing with
for
the
sure.
aux cord in it. That was like the coolest thing I ever thought.
The technology, man. It's like the future was already here.
Right. Yeah.
When my dad bought me my first car, which was a 94 Nissan, I went to Media Play
Never gonna find
back
it.
when that
We can get a
existed
part
and
two on that.
started buying a bunch of cassettes.
Yeah.
All right.
Media Play. Media Play was like not Best Buy.
Oh, Mike Sauerball's watching. Shout out to the legend.
I didn't see that.
Yeah. Read the bullet in a Bible.
I just
Maybe you're not friends with him on Facebook.
maybe he's not friends with me.
That's true.
Could be.
Shame on you, Mike. Shame
Steve,
on
your girl's waiting for part 2.
Yeah, Shannon's reporting in comments. I hope not. We already have a hard enough time getting listeners out there. And we just lost our feed. Cool. All right, guys. Well, maybe we'll see you next week.
You just got canceled.
Jesus.
all we had to do is bring up Nickelback and Creed. That's all it took.
That's why you don't talk about music, religion, or politics.
Never.
Oh God. God love it.
I
I didn't
All
know.
right. Yes, they're a Christian band. You didn't know that?
No, I
Super
had
fan
no
over
idea.
here? Goddamn super fan over here doesn't even know that.
I knew Skillet is.
Used to be.
I don't know who that
Used to be?
is.
Not really anymore. They had a couple hits back in the day.
All right, just like at least 5 seconds so I can maybe find this at this point. Now it's been 20 minutes since we ended part 1.
You knew this wasn't going to be a quick
Oh, I
one.
know.
But you shock.
Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 282, part 2, Beyond the BS, and we've got some lively conversation going on right now. Good part 1, we featured the 601 La Bomba Warhead 9 from Espinosa Cigars. Great cigar. Listen to part 1 if you're listening to part 2 for the first time. As far as the audio, click back, or if you're just tuning in now, you want to listen to our ratings and talk about the project that is the Warhead for Espinosa Cigars. Please do that. We're also sipping on still the Smoke Wagon. This is the Uncut the Younger.
Yes.
And we talked about that project as well as Smoke Wagon a little bit, based out of Las Vegas and how they do what they do. And then we also rated those in part 1. So check those out if you'd like. on part 1. Tonight, we're going to be doing something. This is becoming kind of a long-going series. As long as we're getting feedback, I like this. This has been great, and I can't wait next week. If you guys want to give us some more, I'll post it again. If you guys have some more topics, don't give it to us tonight for next week. But if you're thinking about something, we've got Rick Rodriguez, possibly his daughter Sarah on as well, remotely. Awesome. So if they want to stay on, this would be fun. It's always fun to get people in the industry like Tyler to be on here and talk about all that stuff.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.
I cut you off guard with that. Thank you.
Yeah, you don't say it much.
Usually for the.
You don't say it much.
Say it much.
You don't say it enough.
I'll try. I'll work on that. That's a me problem.
It is. I agree. If you guys want to contribute to the show, patreon.com/bourbonandbs podcast or at Venmo at bourbonandbs. That helps us keep this thing going. So one-time contribution on Venmo, or if you guys want to do, there's a $5, $10, and $25 Patreon tier there for you if you want to do that. So appreciate that. Or also, if you guys want some swag, buyjack.com/bourbonandbs. You guys can order the shirt that I have on, the Pour One More, Light Up Another. We'll figure this out together, or the BS Silver, focus on the silver lining that Nate has on. Several different colors in both of those. There's also some 3/4 sleeve raglan, if they call them that, but there's this great BS Cigar company. Raglan's on there, and then also some hoodies for BS Cigar Company. And also love that black camo with the barrel head, the Bourbon and BS logo on there. I love that. You see the logo in the right above Nate's head there, right by the Warhead tin sign there. So that's fantastic.
Is it kind of like this black camo?
It's yeah, I didn't realize that was it. Yeah, it's kind of like that.
It actually looks really good on the feed.
It's subtle.
Yeah, very subtle. I actually kind of
like
subtle,
that. And then it's got the screen right here on the chest there, and it is that logo up there.
The barrel
head with the Bourbon and BS with the 2 cigars coming out. So it's just it's
I may have
nice
to order.
screen.
I may have to order another one because last year mine got a little cigar hole burn right about here.
Happens to the best of us.
That it does. All right, guys. Do want to say share, like, comment, review, and subscribe. I know we have some people. We are looking forward to part 2 here, so this will be interesting. Kristen says over under on Steve ordering pizza tonight. I'm not doing it. She's like, Tyler's going to be there. I know it goes late sometimes, so if you want pizza, order it early. So no, I'm trying to be good on this, so we'll see.
Too many carbs, man.
Yeah, especially at this hour,
right?
And at this age in my life. Part 2. Let me put this up here on there. Let's hear from the audience.
Hell yeah.
What we got on deck?
I already lost it here. Oh, there it is. We've got some good ones.
Okay. I'm excited. I saw you guys do this with Kunal, and I'm like, Steve, are we going to do that same thing? Because I actually really enjoyed what you guys did. With
Tyler's terrible taste in music, Bro Country, go. No, I'm just kidding. That is on there. That is
Is it on there? Okay.
It's on there. Yeah, that was 4 hours ago. That was before we started, too.
Beautiful. Was that from Jonathan Herring?
Ray.
That was from Jonathan, actually.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hater. Well, you want me to talk about Cody Jinks or something like that? Little Tyler Childers? I can battle out with that, too.
Wow.
All right, let's start here with let's start with Jonathan Herring. In work, following your passion versus higher financial security.
Ooh, interesting. So what's more important?
Just in general. Just the thought process there. Yeah. You can say what's more important, whatever you think. So in work, following your passion versus higher financial security. Jonathan, if you could type that up on the feed, then we can actually feature that also on here.
I think there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of people that could give personal examples in their lives of where they've just chased money.
Right. Yeah.
Make really good money, but they're absolutely miserable going to their job. Right. They're miserable with their daily life because, yes, they make good money, but I mean, if at the end of the day you get home, you're like, God damn it, I hate my day-to-day activities. I don't want to do anything. Like, what good is the money then? Because you're miserable. There's a cost to everything.
Right. Yeah.
So sometimes, the cost is less money, but more happiness, more money, less happiness. But to Shane and Matt's point, try and find something that you get both out of. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why earlier this year I made that career change that I did, because the money was the exact same. Money was the exact same, but holy shit, was I so, and still am, so much happier.
Right.
Even though now I have to actually drive and go to work.
Oh, God forbid.
God forbid.
Millennial.
We got tired of that for 3 years, didn't we? But no, I mean, some people sit there and go, got an office job, you work from home, you don't have to, you can stay out late, just wake up in time to clock in. But, that was miserable.
There's literally apps, right? Or I think apps like that are on your computer or something like as a mouse mover.
Yeah.
You heard of
or
that?
I've seen the actual devices where you connect
Is it a device.
You can get a device where it connects to your mouse, and like every 60 seconds it moves your mouse.
Yeah.
So that way it
I thought it was an
looks
app,
like,
but maybe it is like an actual device.
So
But
see, it shows
it
like
used
the
to be where
screen
you like
time
if
that
you're
had on there.
Netflix or whatever, like and you don't really need to be active, or you're able to do that, or you probably shouldn't. But I mean, you'd have your laptop on the couch, right? And so you just kind of like move it a little bit, like during that time.
yeah.
I mean, in this situation, like I got blessed. It was I had out of high school, I went to the United States Air Force, did that shit for 4 years, and I could have just stayed in there, did 20 years, retired at I would have been 38, 39 probably if I would have done 20 years and retired and could have started a whole nother career and stuff like that. But that wasn't my passion, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, financial security, the U.S. government, in the military, that's that's about as financially secure you can possibly get,
Sure.
right, in the United States. So, I mean, I left that behind and followed my passion, which was cigar business, which money at that point was pretty similar, but it wasn't, with the FDA stuff, which now we don't have to worry about as much, and so that was taking a little bit of a risk to going into the cigar business at that time and stuff like that, especially right after COVID. Who knew how the cigar industry was going to be or whatever. Luckily, when I hopped in, people just needed product and stuff like that, and it was a great move. But I went and followed my passion, and I found out. And luckily, I was in a lucky situation where, at a young age, at 23 years old, I found out what I was really before that. But 23 years old, I got to start what my passion was professionally, and I'm blessed every day now. 3 years later, a couple weeks ago, I celebrated my 3-year anniversary with the company and stuff.
Congrats,
like
man.
that. Thank you. And I mean, and I've had opportunities to possibly take other avenues in this industry and stuff like that. And it definitely would have been more money and stuff like that. But I'm happy right now. And why would I change? Why change something that's doing awesome already?
Yeah, and
why break something when it's not broke, or why fix something when it's not broken, type deal, And I just got super lucky in this situation, and God bless,
Yeah, I think this is a very, Shannon did say you can have both. I mean, this is a tough one, right? So I mean, following your passion, depending on what your passion is, I think we're in a day and age right now that it's like people's passion can be like, I want to be an influencer on TikTok. It's, what I mean? Like that's
right, yeah,
pretty rare, growing up, I still remember, in high school, like you see the sign or whatever, like of what the odds of being an NBA player was. Yeah. And it's like, as a kid growing up, like I wanted to be better at basketball, even though I was better at baseball, but the Cubs weren't good. The Bulls were. So I obviously gravitated towards basketball, but I was a, 5 at the time, probably 5'8", 5'9". I'm 5'10" now, like white kid that really wasn't that good at it. So it's like, I really want to do that. But then you see that stuff, you're like, oh man, my passion is basketball. You don't necessarily have to be a player, right? So you can follow your passion in different avenues, is why I'm saying that, because sometimes people want to be the one in the spotlight or doing that, especially as you're growing up. Well, like Tyler, for example, it's like, wouldn't it be great type thing. I want to be, for you, I want to be in Eric Espinosa's position. Mm-hmm. You apply for a job. I want to be the CEO. I want to be the sales manager. I want to be all that stuff. It's like, people look at this stuff as like, they do it for the money. And it's like, well, if you like what you're doing and you keep doing it, and like Tyler, what you're saying now too is like, yeah, you might have some opportunities being presented. It's how do you balance the financial potential versus the passion, not only in what you're doing, but who you're doing it with.
Right.
Because sometimes there are some limitations. And I think that there's this huge potential out there that you could be more financially successful. But even to Nate's point, where it was like you were doing something that was paying the same amount of money, that you already had the job, and yet you took a career change.
Right.
because of maybe this fit your passions, or passion is I think a little bit of a extreme. I think it's great, but also just stuff you're interested in.
Right. Yeah.
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? Like, even like if you're good at sales, you know, like Tyler, you're good at sales, you're developing these skill sets, but it's like, if someone comes along to you and it's like, hey, like you could possibly make more money by selling solar energy, like we were talking about earlier,
Right,
you know,
yeah.
before the podcast, and you're like, that sounds terrible. Like,
Right. Yeah.
why,
Like, why
I mean,
the
yeah, I
fuck would
could
I
make-
do that?
You're saying I can make double the money. That's great. But it's like, am I going to enjoy that?
Right.
But I think
yeah.
people are wired differently also, is that you can be good at what you do, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the industry when you say your passion. I think the passion would be something that you're either working on getting better, or you're passionate about your role, not necessarily the product or the industry.
Right.
Working with people from a charity standpoint, working with people as in growing employees and helping them succeed, and therefore you succeed. There's a lot of different angles I think that you can take from that. Financial security, higher, as Jonathan says, I have it on the screen there, is that higher financial security versus following your passion. I agree with Nate. There are some big shortcomings on the higher financial security. As life goes on, you do need some financial security, and you do make some decisions, I think, based on family, life situations, kids, wherever you're at, what you want out of life. If you do, there's nothing, I don't want to say you should be focused on material possessions, but it's nice to feel more comfortable that if something goes wrong with your car, your house, something, health comes up, that you can do it without wrecking yourself. Living paycheck to paycheck, I'll say this, is that I've known a lot of people over the years that it doesn't matter if you're making $30,000 a year or $300,000 a year or even higher than that. People live to their means, and that is more of a personal thing. Higher financial security doesn't mean making more money. It can, and I'm not saying like you should stay in something that you're happy with, but you can't live the life you want. But when you go to work, it's great, and you're making, you know, minimum wage when you could have potential to make more. There's something to be said of trying to do what Shannon was saying. Like, you can have both. And sometimes I think on kind of the everyday Joe kind of a thing, it's not necessarily, it's like, I want to have a Lamborghini, but I also want to like do what I love. And it's like, sorry, you don't have the tool belt for me to put the tools in there. Like, it doesn't always exist. I think people succeed at what they succeed at a lot of times for a particular goal. But they're also, the capacity of their tool belt doesn't always fit the tools you need for what they are passionate about. So sometimes I think passion, when it comes to industries or hobbies or products like cigars, whiskey, whatever it might be, that's your hobby still. That's your interest. This is what you enjoy outside of work. I'm not saying you need to just do the financial security thing and you're miserable. That's a lot of times not necessarily what you're doing. I think it's more of who you're doing it with and for.
Yeah. Several years ago, Mike Rowe actually did a video where he talked about
the Dirty Jobs guy.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
He did a video.
Just wanted to make sure I was tracking.
It was like following your passion versus following, I forget what the latter half of the title was. But one of the example, he brought up a couple examples, one personal and, you know, one that we all witness. Like, every year on American Idol, you see a bunch of people show up that want to be a professional singer. There have been people that have been told that they're a great singer their whole life, and then they go on that show, and that's the first time anyone's ever told them that they suck.
Yeah, no,
like, they're not a good singer. Like, I understand that's your passion, but you suck at it. So if you try and follow your passion to be a singer, but you can't sing, are you ever going to make any money doing that?
Yeah.
Like, I bet all three of us, you know, wished at some point in our life we could be a rock star, or Tyler's case, a country music star.
Rock stars.
But if none of us can sing, and Steve's probably got the best voice out of the three of us. But like, if none of us can sing or play an instrument, chances are we're not gonna make it.
Well, yeah, it always takes work, though. And that's where I think, you know, from what Jonathan was saying there, is that that's what I take away from it. Financial stability versus following your passion. No matter what it is, you got to work your ass off for it. You know what I mean? Like, there aren't easy paychecks. And even like, you look at some of the greats, you bring up music, you bring up sports, you bring up even people that are successful, like, you know, like, keep it right here at home with who we have on the podcast, you know, Tyler, like Eric Espinosa, when he's on the podcast or when I've talked to him, it's not that he just fucking was like, I want to be a cigar maker and he just breezed through it. He did so many different roles in the industry to get to where
he's literally
at.
had every role,
That's
every
where it's
job
like
in the
that,
industry.
like
almost.
his passion was this, but then it becomes the job. And for greater financial stability, he's worked hard. He's hit lucky spots at times and unlucky spots at times. And I think that that's something where, you know, we glaze over what actually makes this decision possible. Kristen actually put something up. I don't know if you saw it on there. At every job, you should either learn or earn. Either is fine. Both is best. But if it's neither, quit. She puts in there. Obviously, if you can financially. You know, I've talked about that, you know, my previous career when it was like, I was just pissed at the way the organization
You brought that up last week.
And it was like, I was talking like my dad about it. And it was like, yeah, they screwed me over. This person fucked up and now they're getting their old job back and I'm getting bumped back. And I don't think I want to do it anymore. It's like, what are you going to do on Monday? Yeah. That's the end of that. Obviously,
right,
if you can't financially, it's like, you know, it's like, I couldn't, you know what I mean? I'm not just going to do it. And I think more people do it even more so now. You know, they do it when they can't financially do it, where they're just like, I need a day off. I need to do this. I need to do things my own way. You know, again, not to go down the rabbit hole, but like mental health is a real thing,
right?
You know, a real issue. But it's like people are using that as a fucking hot topic where it's like, oh, I can't work today because of my mental health. And it's like, cool. Well, you're not getting paid. Well, that's not fair. You don't own the business.
Right.
You know, so it's stuff like that. I think that's a great point.
Beautiful. Good
Sean,
start.
Yeah, it is. Just waiting if Sean wanted to chime in here.
I'm good. I'm
Just chilling. Just chilling. You look comfortable.
I'm very.
I like the Crocs, bro.
Thanks, man.
See people that shit on Crocs. It's like,
Appreciate you, man.
Here's one from Sean.
ooh,
See if we can get him involved. When was the last time you were completely vulnerable to someone? He puts his phone down. He's like, all right, I'll. Oh, do you want to go first? Oh, here we go. That's all I had to do is include him. You know?
I'm kind of an open book. I wear my emotions on my sleeve, so it's very easy for me to do that, especially with my wife and friends. That when I have something that I'm truly struggling with, and over the years I've had a lot to struggle over, I'll be the first to tell you. I'll tell you everything I do. Hell, I've done it on the show many times, like mental health and everything else. And the one thing I take from all that is that as tough as it can be for some people, because it's hard to do that, but the weight off your shoulders, the getting it out of your system, just to let it out, helps immensely. I think that because I've tried during some really tough depression times, is to hold it in and not talk it out and not open up. And I think that made it more detrimental and probably delved me deeper into my depression and suicidal thoughts. And, you know, friends like you guys and everybody else, I have nothing to hide. And I feel that I, as a friend, can show that to you all to let you know I'll be a lending ear if you ever have anything you really want to open up about, because you know everything about me. So I'd never judge. I would take anything anybody were to come to me and do my best to help them with what they're dealing with.
Thank you for sharing that, man. Tyler, when was the last time you were vulnerable?
Last time I was vulnerable.
Nope. There it is. Thanks, Nate, for putting the topic up there.
You're welcome.
That's a great question.
Do you need some more time to think about it?
Nate, do you have something to go off top of your
When was
head?
the last time you were at a doctor?
When I was at Battelle.
There you go.
Yeah.
Probably pretty vulnerable on a physical.
Probably very, very, very vulnerable.
Drop your pants, cough.
Military.
So, Air Force. Air Force.
Air Force probably was when I was most vulnerable, because they could just tell me whatever the fuck to do. And
There
shit
you
like
go.
that, and I had no say in it.
There you
I'm
go.
like, all right, cool. Except when I turned down that deployment, that kind of worked in my favor a little bit.
Yeah.
But that was shocking when I said I did decline, and then they're like, okay, send this guy, and I'm like, that really worked.
Yeah.
But that was probably the most like power I ever felt when I was in the Air Force type
Good.
deal. But yeah, the whole 4 years I was pretty vulnerable to that, to the military and stuff like that, just because they pretty much told me where I needed to go, and I said yes sir, yes ma'am type deal. And I really had no say in much. It was pretty. That was pretty vulnerable right there. I was. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's my piece on that.
Tim Dodge.
Prostate exam.
Luckily, I'm not that old yet,
There
so
we
I don't
go.
have to.
There we go.
Shout out to everybody who's had to go through that.
Not yet. Not there. Don't look at me.
Probably one of the last times I was the most vulnerable was almost a decade ago now, when I lost my sales rep job.
Mhm.
And that was a rough month following that. And my wife, she could really see how much of an impact that had on me, because she knew I was happy doing what I was doing, and that it was something I had wanted to do. And to have it taken away in the way it was just completely wrecked me, and had long lasting effects for many years, some even still today. But the way I was during that month afterwards, feeling like a complete failure, and putting us in a situation, going through what we had to do, with all of a sudden me losing, it's just the two of us. So, and I, having that job, I was the breadwinner, and to all of a sudden lose that, and have to rely solely on her income. And then eventually, when I was working full time at Kroger, obviously that wasn't paying a whole lot. So she was the primary breadwinner, and I felt like crap for the longest time about us being in that situation, because I always looked at it as it was my fault. I'm the one that left what some people would say was a steady job, steady pay, but I absolutely hated doing what I was doing, and left to do something I was passionate about. So almost mirrored that this year. If I last at least another month, and I lasted longer in this job than I did that
I think
one.
you will. I think it's different.
Yeah,
it's
completely different environment.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I felt so negative for the longest time because of that, and my wife could see that on me as well, and thankfully, she was very supportive, and did everything she could to help me through that and get back on my feet. So I'm, I don't know if I could have gotten through that time if I didn't have her. But
I think it would be a different scenario, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's different factors at play.
Yeah, but there have been times after that where I've wanted to do something other than what I was doing at the time, but I was too scared of reliving the same failures as before to actually go and do that, because I didn't want to put her through that. It wasn't, I don't want to put us through that. No, I didn't want to put her through that again, because, things were very, very tight for the next probably 2-3 years. And then I was just, I was very negative. I was miserable. I was miserable to be around, so that obviously had a negative impact on her and our relationship. But anytime other opportunities had come up, I was always honest with her. Like, no, there's this opportunity. I don't know that I want to do it, because I don't want to go through that again. I failed once at it. I don't want to fail again at it. So I'll pass.
I think, taking this question, when was the last time you were completely vulnerable to another person? Literal answer to this is, and I see what you're saying, Nate and Tyler and Sean. I mean, for me, it's It's a lot. I mean, it's not that long ago. I mean, it was literally just like it's being open, you know, for me, in the relationship I'm in with Kristen. It's like, not to get into details on a public forum, but it's like we've had some where we have butted heads about stuff, or one of us is not happy. That's part of being in a relationship, right? So it's just being honest. So for me, being vulnerable is, you know, in one, and I don't want, you know, I know we have some mutual friends listening. I don't want to think that it's that extreme, but I mean, it can be as simple as, I want to be able to say something without like the potential of losing you. You know what I mean? And that's being vulnerable. And obviously the response from her is like, you know, it's not that serious. You know, it's like, why would you say that? It's like, that is tough for me. And I think a lot of people, to be able to be honest, being vulnerable, to being open with your feelings and your thoughts about that, is because if you're not, then you're bottling up and nothing's going to actually change. Right. So if you're constantly, you know, I say this comment a lot with some friends, but with Kristen as well, is like, I'm not trying to win this discussion. And that's me being vulnerable, because it's like, I want to be able to be honest about how I'm, like, my side of things. I'm going to listen to you, but I'm not just going to like sit here and take your opinion as, I'm not going to respond or rebuttal to that, because I'm worried that I'm going to upset you further, or I don't want you to do the same thing for me. Professionally, I've had some great conversations with my boss, the owner of the Tinder Box at Easton, Brian, where like in the last year or so, I feel like, especially recently, like we're more on the same page recently than we have. And you go through ups and downs. I mean, that's another relationship, right? Over 10 years. Like we're going up on 13 or 11 years of me working for him in this capacity. And he allows me a lot of the freedoms to do stuff like this. And, you know, if I was working in my previous career and did this, they would be pissed. You know what I mean? Like, they'd be like, what the fuck are you doing on Wednesday nights? You know what I mean? Not because I'm coming in on Thursdays, you know, smelling of bourbon and cigars, but because it's like, what did you, like, I was listening, like, how could you talk like that? You represent this company. It's like, I look at that as that being on this show, even, there is a sense of being vulnerable with this, is that I put this out here and you guys do it with me. And this is live. You say something, sometimes it comes out without the pre-calculated, like, if I say this, like, I need to be professional. You know what I mean? It's being open. And I think being vulnerable, like completely vulnerable, is if you live your life that way, you obviously have to be calculated a lot of your moves, but it's like, in what you say, but you do something like this, and you brought it up. It was funny. The last time that Tyler was talking about, when he was on with Hector got to that point where he was just going with it. Right. And he didn't say anything bad, but it was hilarious, because it was getting late in part two. I literally excused myself. I went in the side of the house to use the outhouse. And all of a sudden, like, I'm standing there doing my business. And all of a sudden I hear right in the side of my ear, it's like, hey buddy. I'm like, Jesus, man, what the fuck, Tyler? And he's like, we should probably wrap this up, because, you know, Hector's getting a little loose right now. And I'm like, he hasn't said anything. He's like, yeah, I know, but I just like, I feel like we should just, like, you know, it's like, because
it might get there.
There is, like, there are moments where, and Jonathan Herring joked about it, you know, with friends with alcohol involved, there are times where you need a little bit of that kind of liquid courage to be that. But I think, you know, for me, when I bring up my relationship, both personally and also in the work atmosphere, you do have to make sure that you don't just shoot from the hip all the time, because you speak emotionally, it can come across in a way that you didn't actually mean it.
Right. Yeah.
But if you can try to pace yourself in the conversation, or pace yourself in the situation, I think that that's a moment where being completely vulnerable, which was, you know, Sean's topic here. The last time I was completely vulnerable with another person it's more often than I'd like to admit sometimes, but like in this format, like it's I'm proud to admit the fact that I can be somewhat vulnerable talking like this and telling that stuff, again, with tact, and not just being like, oh, you know, like, Kristen and I had this argument, or Brian at the shop and I, like, didn't see eye to eye with this. It's like, you got to watch, like, how you handle it, but you got to be able to address it with that other person, which is what you asked last time. You're vulnerable with another person. And I think that's where, for me, at this point in my life, it's better to be somewhat vulnerable and take a chance on being honest, and also taking a chance with being with someone or being in a job or following a career choice, whatever it might be. You're better to open yourself up for potential failure than it is to just play that safe route all the time. So that vulnerability can be a strength if you use it to your best ability. That's how I'd answer that.
I mean, so now that I'm thinking, I'm like, oh shit. And it wasn't that long ago. You know, I remember talking to you plenty about it, but there was like a it felt like a fucking forever, but it was like probably like a year and a quarter type, you know, time frame where I was hung up about this one girl over in Indy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I remember telling you, you know, all these things about, you know, me and her were just like, we're the same people, we vibe off the same shit. I'm like, me and her were like, boom, we just fucking connected like crazy.
Yeah.
But she had another dude in her life that wasn't like the perfect ideal situation for her. But me and her were always hanging out. She got off work. You know, she would always be hitting me up. Hey, you gonna come see me at the restaurant type deal, blah, 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 and stuff like that. And we just like, me and her just had like this, you know, this like really good friendship and shit like that. But we both saw it going past a certain way, but we had these obstacles in front of us type deal that kept it from happening. And literally it was probably like, it's probably been like 6 months ago since I've actually just completely like absolutely just let go of that. And actually it's like been the most clearing fucking thing in my head.
Great.
And it's been awesome. I mean, it's crazy that didn't pop up in my head first when we brought up this conversation, but and then it actually started sinking in. And I was like,
start thinking a different way.
Yeah, podcast brings that out,
right? Yeah, and you know, I'm just like, yeah, holy shit, you know, that was like a year and a half of me and this girl like just going back and forth, and like, you know, we had great times together, and we still, you know, if I ran into her tomorrow, we would talk about the great times and stuff like that, and we would, you know, we'd go down the road and stuff like that, and I'd still ask her, how you doing, how's everything going, you know, and but yeah, it's just stuff you will never forget about, and you remember that and you build off that. That's what makes you, you know, better essentially.
You have to remember it and build off it though, because if you don't, then you're gonna be stuck in that situation again.
Right, of course. And so I had the
exact situation, or it might be a very similar situation.
Right. So I had to just, you know, absorb it, you know, absorb the tough loss type deal, and, you know, move on type deal. And it took me, and it really did take me a while to get all right. I mean, there's still probably a piece of me that wishes there was some way that could happen, but you know, it just wasn't in the cards, right? So it's,
and you remember the good times.
You do remember the good times.
You have to remember the bad times, because those are the reasons that it didn't work out.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Job, relationship, otherwise.
Yeah. 100%.
I'm putting up on the screen. I'm sorry for those who listen to the audio later. You're not getting all this stuff, but encourage you guys to, if you can, watch the video on YouTube or Facebook, or tune in live, because there's some great.
Is this on YouTube live?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and it'll stay on YouTube. It'll stay on, you know, Facebook as well, on the Bourbon and BS podcast page. But I mean, like, there's some great comments going back and forth between some listeners right now. Mike, Kristen, Jonathan, Sean,
Mike's
Anderson,
the man.
Tim,
Mike's been on the
Tim
show,
Dodge. Right? Mike has been on the show not too long ago.
Yeah, Mike's the best. I'll be doing an event anywhere, and I'll be in Chicago, and he'll be like, he's like, are you doing what time does this event go to or whatever? And I'll be like, what, are you in the area? And he goes, I might be. And I'm like, okay, cool. We'll be doing the event this time or whatever, or anywhere in Indianapolis. Yeah. He'll hit me up. He'll see, I made some Instagram post on my story that I'm doing an event at this place or whatever. And he always swings in, and he always, you know,
he texted
does
me
his part. He
said he's going to be in town on Monday, and he's like, you want to get a workout in on Wednesday or Monday night? And Mike, I know you're listening. I gotta work open to close because Josh is out, so I will not be able to do that. But I'll be at the shop if you want a cigar instead after your workout. Sean Anderson, haven't really ignored you a whole lot. You put on. I wonder if the women in everyone's life were honest, would they be okay with seeing you fall off your white horse? The right one would. Tell you that right now.
Yeah,
especially
I gave an answer to that one.
You what?
I did.
Yeah, your whole scenario, obviously.
Well, I don't think any woman wants to see their man fall off their horse. They want. I think they want their man to be vulnerable with them, not vulnerable to the things going on in the world. Like, they don't want to see their man fall. They want their man to be that, that night on the horse. but still at the same time be completely vulnerable and gentle with them. Like, going out into the world, your expectations to, as one radio personality say, you leave the cave, go out, kill something, drag it home. Like, that's what your woman wants. But when you're inside the cave, you're not in that fight mentality.
Okay. No, I think that, yes, the right woman does. If they don't want to see you fail, obviously that's, to Nate's point, they don't want to see you fail. But if they bail because you fail,
right, and then
come on,
fuck them at that point. Right?
Yeah, no, yeah, that's
Facts.
not why you're in it. You got to be.
They're not the real ones,
That's
you
right.
always got to keep the real ones close. Shout out to Jack T. I just saw he's watching. About time he hopped.
Oh, Jonathan Herring's back on Team Nate. All right.
No, he said Ray Cheshire's.
Took a couple weeks.
Ray Cheshire's hashtag Team Nate.
There we go.
They abandoned me the last couple weeks, but good to have them back.
Yeah.
How's this Azaleo smoking, fellas?
Great, as always.
This is one of my favorites.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I actually really like it how it's going with the whiskey right now. I think it's actually doing a really good job because he got the body of the cigar and the nuttiness of the cigar, and it kind of goes with the heat of the bourbon really nice, I think.
Definitely better.
So I
do think the pairing is definitely better.
So I think going whiskey to cigar, this pairing is better. Going cigar to whiskey, I actually like the Warhead 9 more because the Warhead brought out more sweetness of the whiskey than what this does.
I think the whiskey brings out more spice out of this.
It adds a different level of complexity to the cigar. Like, yeah, it's kind of the opposite of what
it kind of takes away the nuttiness.
For me, it's the opposite of what the Warhead 9 was in part 1. The Warhead 9 goes cigar, then whiskey. This one, go whiskey, then cigar.
Chris says this is part 2. We still talk about cigars sometimes.
Yeah, a little bit. You got to throw it in there.
You got to throw it in there.
you gotta the shameless plugs, right? You got to do the.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Thank you. I don't know if you can cut and paste this one. It's a little longer one there, Nate. Kristen says, what are the themes or lessons for each decade of your life? Now, Tyler, I know you already mentioned your age, so this is
right. Yeah, I almost got 3 decades in me.
So between 0 and 10 compared to now. Now, what are your themes or lessons for each decade of your life? 30s. She says 30s are more learning to have tough conversations when needed, communicating consistency.
Hell, that's the 20s.
20s, 40s, etc. could be different for different people.
I think the 20s have taught me a ton. I think the 20s have kind of, for me, almost is like it's me building that one step closer to being like a man's man kind of deal. You know what I mean?
So
like
here's what she said. I don't know if, sorry, I'm not keep your thought train here.
Yeah.
Got it.
How different your 30s are from your 20s, right? So this is decade and decade. She's in her 30s. I would say 20s for me was more learning, work-life balance, budgeting, etc. 30s are more learning to have tough conversations when needed, communicating, consistency, etc. So, and I'll put Nate, you put it on there. So yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Trying to complete that thought there.
So like the 20s, yeah. I mean, how Kristen explained the 20s is 100% true. And but adding to that, I'm in an interesting position because I'm around 99% of the people around me are older than me, right? And so I get to sit there and learn from those people and their mistakes in the past, and I get to I get to learn how people that are older than me in this business have done some things, and I end up taking them and molding myself into my own thing. But I also take and, give at the same time. And I use my age to my, benefit. But
you and Jake both always bring up your age.
Jake does because he feels like he's disrespected because of his age. I don't as much.
It's a huge chip on his goddamn shoulder.
I mean, if that dude that guy's got a whole Pringle cans full of chips on his shoulder.
What's
like a supersized fucking Pringles.
Fantastic.
I love the guy to death.
I love him too. Fantastic Four. What the Thing?
The what?
The thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Jake.
Michael Chiklis.
Michael Chiklis.
Just full of
Yeah.
he's just complete chips.
Chips
rocks.
all around. Chips and rocks. And
Fucking,
I don't even know if you could call them chips. I think they're boulders on his shoulders at this
all
point.
right,
you
let's
know?
get off of that.
Like,
All right.
no, I mean, it's the age thing. It's funny, you know. I always get people always come up to me and they're like, everybody thinks I'm older than I am. Like everybody
It's a lot of
guesses, like,
city miles at this point, man.
well, yeah, I know. I'm gonna have gray.
You have
I'm gonna have
grays by
gray.
the time you're 30, man.
Bro, I'm gonna look like Jonathan Herring with all his grades by the time he was 30, bro.
Shots fired.
I mean,
That's
that's what this business does to you. But
it is, yeah.
But at the same
wait.
time, like all
Just
those
wait.
gray hairs are like experience, right? At least that's the way I would like to think of it. As you know, fast as those are gonna start coming in.
Yeah. Trust me.
Right. But you know, it's
My beard went gray 2020, 2021, man. Quick.
it went pretty quick. Man. I
Dude.
saw an old picture. I just smacked the shit out of the mic again. Apologize to the audio listeners.
That's fine.
But like I saw, like I was going through like some old posts from the podcast. I'm like, holy shit, Steve's beard was really fucking dark brown at one point.
It was not that long ago.
It really
That's
wasn't
what
that
I'm
long
saying.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I went gray.
probably the one vaccine shot I took.
Yeah.
All right. Just
I-
go on.
Oh, here we
Go on. Go
My
on. All right.
my beard went my beard went gray 2 months after I got let go from sales rep.
That makes sense.
Just because the stress I was going through, that's when the chin went gray.
I look at this so 20s for me, themes and lessons from each decade of your life. It is weird, you know, you look at like these chunks like 5 years, 10 years and all that stuff, you know what I mean? And I think as you get older, it is, you can classify this. Not many people look at it year by year, but it's easy to say like 20 to 25 different person, 25 to 30 different person.
Yeah.
Decades for sure. It's a lifetime, it feels like.
Fuck, Air Force Tyler versus Tyler now. Just in 3 years, completely different fucking people.
Sure.
I mean, you look at a picture of me 3 years ago and you look at a picture of me now. I get so many people in Indianapolis. They're like, I post that 3-year anniversary picture of me and the legend Doug Sifford
Yeah.
riding together on my first day on the job or whatever. And people in Indianapolis, you know, have known me since I moved there. And they're like, who the fuck was that guy? That looks nothing like you. And I'm like, you're telling me, pal. I'm like, I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's definitely, it's just crazy how like just 3 years, I feel like I'm just I'm a new animal, you know, as Nickelback would say.
Jonathan says, yeah, Tyler, you're super mouthy now.
He's a little cocky.
I'll say this, the thing that's been great for me, ups and downs,
Thank you, Jonathan.
didn't have it figured out. No one really does. No one really does now. I mean, they say they do, and they probably do have a lot more figured out as you go along, but those are learning from that, right? You know, 30s, what she was saying, you know, learning to have more tough conversations when needed, communicating consistency. I think you're starting to become more honest with yourself. If you're finding yourself, Jonathan, I put the comment up there about, you know, when he is 30, it's about learning who the fuck he is or who the hell he is, whatever he said.
Yeah.
I think that is something that you wish and you thought was happening in your 20s, right? Especially like, I agree with you, Tyler. Like you're surrounded by typically older individuals based on the industry you're in, which
Anywhere from 30 years old all the way up to fucking 80 something.
So
you know, it's like I got a lot of
you gotta be
experience. on the
listening, but you
ground.
also have to experience your own things. You know, it's like at your younger ages, you know, like in teenage years, you think you know best. Your parents don't know best. I'm not going to comment on everyone's, you know, upbringing, but just in general, you think you know better than your parents. You think you know better than people older than you.
Yeah.
And you're still figuring it out. And sometimes, a lot of times, based on my experiences, is that some of the thoughts I had at that age were right, and a lot of times they were wrong. And that you know, my parents knew better than I did, even though. And I wasn't that type of teenager that was like trying to sneak out, go drinking, or all that stuff.
Yeah, neither was I.
Just in general, you know what I mean? Like, what do you know? It's like, but as you get older, at 20s, I was just on this path of what you're supposed to do in your 20s. A lot of good memories, a lot of good experiences. My 30s up and down, because I had a reset button right around the decade change, looked like, you know, I was like 30, 31. Now I'm trying to figure myself out again as a new life situation because that previous path had reset. And so now I feel as though that even though I've had ups and downs in the career around the same time, went through a divorce, went through my 30s. I was as clueless in my 30s because of who I thought I was in my 20s. Wasn't it? You know what I mean? Like I had a reset button. So now I'm figuring myself out later in life. Now fast forward through the last decade or so, I feel as though I'm finally in a good place with myself, like what Jonathan had said. In my 30s, I was figuring myself out. And now in my early 40s, I finally feel like myself. You know, I've gone through what I just said about being vulnerable. You know what I mean? That can be taken as negative, but it's like that's those tough situations. I'm not highlighting those, but those, if you're vulnerable through that, having like what she was saying there, the tough conversations, communicating, being consistent, all of that stuff, no matter when it happens, when it's 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whenever, it happens differently in everyone's life path and what their trajectory is in life. And you have the hurdles, the reset buttons, all that stuff. You got to constantly, I think, bringing in Sean's topic to this one is the vulnerability and trying to figure out who you are based on what Jonathan said too. You start figuring yourself out, then you start having these types of lessons. Yeah. You're not worried about impressing people. You're not worried about as much keeping up with the Joneses. And today in social media, it's like you want to like make sure that you look like you're having a good time, you're having vacations, you got good things going on, good relationships. But as we all know, I think the more you see on some of that stuff, it's like if someone has a joint account on Facebook, typically that means that someone fucked up. I mean, that's it. That's like, we all see through it. Not all the time. I'm not going to call everyone out, but I mean, we all know that's part of it. And that's also learning, be like, how can I be on social media and also have a happy relationship?
Right, yeah.
Those types of things, I think, but on more of a surface level, it's just being able to know who you are and what's important to you. What are the flags you're looking for that you don't want to be a part of? And if you see a flag, how severe of a flag it is with a personal relationship, a work relationship, whatever it might be, is that how do you handle that? And I think that's what she's learned based on the comment about, having tough conversations when needed, communicating, consistency. I'm not saying everyone's an 80-year-old man that just says whatever the fuck they want to say because they just don't care anymore.
Right.
I think in your 30s and 40s, you do care to a point. Like, I don't want to like burn this bridge or piss this person off.
Right.
You can't just go around necessarily all the time just like shooting from the hip to your boss or You got to have some tact here. You know what I mean? Like you're not
who you could afford to be.
You're not on Graves' doorstep here all the time. You know what I mean? That you might be, but you don't know. But like 80, 90-year-old people that just don't give a fuck, they're just like, what are they going to do?
Right.
I remember I've sucked with tack for 20 years.
Well, then you learned.
There's this question actually reminded me of like an awesome speech from Matthew McConaughey when he won his Golden Globe.
Yeah.
Or his Oscar.
Yeah, his Oscar.
About the old man that came up to him and goes,
so many comments, I can't keep up.
He's like, hey kid, who's your hero? And he goes, let me think about that. Let me get back with you. So he saw that same old guy again, and the guy asked him, he goes, did you figure out who your hero is? And Matthew goes, my hero is me in 10 years. And then so the guy, he saw the old guy 10 years ago, and the old guy goes, oh, are you your hero yet? He's like, not even close. And he's like, what do you mean? And he goes, no, my hero is 10 years from now. Because every 10 years you're constantly changing. You're always shooting for something new, and you're never going to reach your hero. But you know what? You're going to do everything in your power to be damn near close to that as you can. And that's just a part of the evolution of you as a human being and the evolution of all of us. Whether we go our separate ways, kind of like we talked when I was in the audience for when you had Kunal on with that
a couple weeks ago.
You were talking about we evolutionize a little bit, and some friends stay friends and some people go their separate ways, and you don't always know the people you can reach out to again, and it would be like you never lost a step or whatever.
You pick up where you left off.
And you just end up building this evolution of you as a human, as in our case as a man, as a bunch of men up here and stuff like that. And it's a wild road, the life we live, and the life we, end up, turning ourselves into. It's just, you never know what road you're going to end up going through.
Well, I think that's where like Ray commented. I'm trying to keep up with some of the comments. I appreciate that. I love you guys that are listening live and contributing. I don't believe that this is a topic that you can generalize. Absolutely. That's what I'm trying to say. Everyone goes on a different path.
Oh yeah.
So your 20s look different, your 30s look different, your 40s, however old you are, you're on a different path. I think this is just a general thing of like how do the decades look, right? And I think it's different for everyone.
Yeah, my decade, each decade, 20s and 30s were both split into two different parts of myself. My early 20s, getting out of college, like those early mid 20s, those were about establishing myself, being independent, living on my own, and then
figuring your shit out.
Yeah, and then I was married at 26, which when I was in college, someone had actually asked a question about that in one of my classes. I never saw myself getting married.
What was the question?
It was about like when do you think? It was a question to the entire class, like when do you think you'll be married and why? Because in that class we actually had a bunch of baby chasers in our class, like ladies that as soon as they got out
law, or where were you at? Nothing.
As soon as they got out of college, like they wanted to.
Suits?
Yeah. Been watching that show, by the way.
It's a great show, man.
I stopped after season 5.
USA had some bangers back in the day.
Yeah.
You had Psych, and then you had what was the show with Tony Shalhoub?
Monk.
Yeah.
Never watched that one.
I me neither.
I liked him in Wings though.
Oh, there's a throwback.
What was that horror movie he was in? Is that 13 Ghosts or something like that?
Pain and Gain. I think you're talking about Pain and Gain.
He was in Pain. That was an awesome movie, bro. I love that movie. Dude, when I was in high school, I watched Pain and Gain probably 40 times.
Yeah, you would.
I was just like, holy shit.
Meathead.
Oh, yeah. It was a complete
Sorry,
meathead.
Nate.
Sorry, Nate. I didn't mean to go out. Tony Shalhoub just popped in my head. And whenever I picture that guy, it brings a smile to my face.
Think of The Rock.
I think he was also. I think he was
Schlotsky's Deli.
I think he was also in the second Snake Plissken movie, Escape from L.A. L.A. was the second one. He was in that.
He had to be pretty young in that movie.
Anyway,
Tim Dodge, you're absolutely right.
Russell in that one?
Squirrel. Absolutely.
That was it. 13 Ghosts.
Yeah.
Nate, do you want to finish?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Please.
No, that was a question in one of our classes in college, and so like I never saw myself being married, really in my 20s, but the early and mid part of my 20s was more about establishing myself and my independence, moving out, having my own job, my own apartment, things like that. And then, I met my wife, events transpired. I was married at 26, and, first several years of marriage, everything was going great. Work was okay. I eventually left that career to pursue something I wanted to. When that fell through, and I was 30, I was 30. I was 30 when that fell through. That was one of the more trying times in our relationship. Even the first couple years after that were some testy moments in our marriage.
Sure.
Not like things were on the rocks and we were, talking about splitting up, nothing like that, but things just weren't going great. Both of us were just kind of coasting by in the relationship.
Yeah.
It's like couples retreat. Oh, we get through things. Yeah. What do you mean you get through things?
John Favreau.
No, that was Vince Vaughn and Molly Ackerman,
yeah.
And who's there? The guy from
The Breakup, right?
He was the guy from The Breakup. He was old
Vince
girl's
Vaughn?
brother. Old girl,
Best in show.
Jennifer
I forget his name.
Aniston, whatever
yeah.
his name is. He goes, I don't know who you two are. Sorry again.
Tyler's getting to that point. A lot of squirrels running around
Great
here.
movie. Great movie.
A lot of squirrels running around.
I hear shit and it just pops movie scenes in my head.
Well, to quote another show, the next time you have a thought, let it go.
Wow. Wow.
I'll let you go. So after that unsuccessful career, we had a couple rocky years in our marriage where we were just struggling to get by and didn't know how we were going to get by or what we were going to do, if we were going to have to move. stuff like that. Neither one of us wanted to ever reach out to other people for help. And that, to some extent, that's kind of a pride thing. Like you want to, you're in your 30s, you want to be able to make it on your own. But like recently, because then my mid 30s was just getting back to where I used to be in my late 20s, was just kind of at least trying to get back to that point, both in career and relationship. And then now with things going on the way they have gone this year, it's kind of almost going back to those, early years in our marriage.
Yeah.
We've kind of gone back to that point and not started over, but just kind of going back and, reliving some of the things that we used to do and trying to get back to do those things together and have that kind of relationship that we did, those first few years of marriage.
That's good. No, I think that you do go through those like cycles, right? Or this, those types of that cyclical thing if you stick with it, right? I'll ask this: what got you back to it?
To where we are in our relationship now.
What you just said, yeah.
Honestly, making their career change back in February, because I had been when I took the last role I had with AEP. That actually, when I took that role on, I had, a positive outlook on it. I was excited for what could be. I was excited for the future. And that role just actually took me back. I was miserable doing what I was doing. It was because I was not given the opportunity to perform like I had in my previous role with the company. And, I had it. So I ended up just having a negative attitude, and it's like, all right, I'm just going to get online. I'm going to do what I need to do. And that's it. There was no longer the same passion for the job that I'd had in the previous position. And a lot of that was due to the manager that I had. There were some communication issues. There were some training issues, lack thereof. And, I felt I wasn't being utilized to the best of my abilities. And so I kind of became closed off and more negative during that. So now that, for the last 6 months, I've had an opportunity to do something that I look forward to and, look forward to the interactions I get to have at work every single day, and doing something that, feels better doing than what I used to do. 2 weeks into the job, I came home from work one day and Jess had said, you're so much happier now.
Happiness cures all.
Than what you were, 2 months ago.
Funny how these topics keep feeding into each other.
Yeah. And that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
But no, like having the position that I do now, because I was so much happier with the job than when I came home, I was a better person. I was a happier person. I was happier to be around. And so that kind of made our relationship better. And, we've just been building off of that momentum ever since.
It's good.
Hell yeah.
All right. This next one, we had someone, so Ray actually sent it to me. And then also Uriel mentioned something here. This might be an interesting one that might go on for a little while. Might be the last topic of the night for now. Let me see if I can pull up Ray's comment if I can first, but Uriel is right there with it. Bear with me here. All right. Ray's is I'm gonna send this to you, Nate, so you can post it.
I'm on the feed right now, so I can.
This is actually a private one here. So
okay.
Hang on 1 second here. It'll block us out completely. So maybe post Uriel's. But I'll send you what Ray had sent me here. All right. So Ray says, men today have lost their backbone. They've lost the fire in their belly and the passion in their soul. Most men today aren't living, they're merely existing, and bleakly existing at that. Yeah, you might want to post Uriel's. This is going to block the entire page.
Okay.
Every day they are given an opportunity to speak their truth, to stand their ground, to authentically express themselves and share with the world who and what they really are. But they rarely take it. Through years of subconscious social conditioning, we've been taught to bite our tongues, to avoid rocking the boat, to play it safe, and try to please everyone around us. And then Uriel, I see these as very similar. Uriel says, is being a masculine man, quote, toxic, end quote, or does it make a good husband/father? And elaborate a little as to how it applies to today's society.
That's a pretty general statement.
Which one?
Raise. Well, both, kind of.
I think they're pretty
it's
pointed.
Does that describe people today? Sure. But I wouldn't just make a blanket statement like that. It applies to everybody in this fucking, especially like my generation or something like that. I feel like that was a shot towards my generation to a certain degree.
No, I get where you're coming from in your 20s, but I mean, no, there's plenty of people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, this is across the board. Yeah. And I think that, where Uriel, I think, uses more of a hot topic term of toxic masculinity being thrown around all the time, where I think Ray described it a little different.
I think, well, first off, I think anyone that thinks like masculinity is toxic or whatever, I mean, that's just either describing a douchebag or that's just someone who just isn't comfortable in their own skin making that claim type deal.
Okay.
I had seen,
not saying Uriel's not comfortable in their skin, but I think they're making a very general statement.
I know Uriel, he's a provider. He works for UPS.
Okay.
He trying to be a good, as he says, husband and father, you know what I mean? So it's like, being a masculine man, is it toxic or does it make you a good husband and father?
I don't think it's toxic by any means. I mean, I think it's everybody's. So the problem with today's society is that we have the ability to see so many different types of people, and not everybody is comfortable with every other type of human being that's out there. And I think it's in our face more than ever because of social media and because of all these other things and how, people just exist with people and how free people feel to speak their mind on certain opinions.
Sure.
So, I mean, that you just got to consider the source that brings up that subject about that certain individual or whatever. And, if you're just like talk about Andrew Tate, who just like, he just oozes as like when you talk about toxic masculinity, okay, that guy's a little bit over the top with some of the shit that he goes on about. I agree with some of this.
It's funny to watch some of his old stuff.
Do you know where that term came from?
What, masculinity?
Toxic masculinity.
I'm curious.
I'm curious to where it came from.
Where this conversation is going to go.
No,
this is going to be interesting.
3 white dudes in the suburbs. Here we go. Let's go.
No,
right.
So it actually.
Well, you got one downtown boy.
No, it actually came up. It actually came about in the 90s when some psychologists were studying inmates, and they were studying violent inmates, and people
because he had to be the big dog.
Yeah,
in the
people
yard
that
that no one would fuck with.
If if you step on my foot, I'm going to sit there and shank you. Like that's what they were.
They were just trying to disrespect on them.
And so these psychologists were describing that type of violent behavior within the penal system as being toxic. And then several years later, educational psychologists and psychiatrists picked up on that term and started running with it. But there's really no such thing as toxic masculinity. There's, males that are complete douchebags. There's females that are complete douchebags.
Oh,
like
100%.
It goes ways.
It definitely goes fucking both ways.
But I think the term's been used one-sided.
Right.
There are toxic people. There's masculinity, there's femininity, and then there are toxic people. But people want to attribute being toxic mainly to just one side of that coin.
I got like 2 sentences that rounds this up in my head.
Let's go.
Like, who gives a shit, for one, what other people think about how you are? You be who you are and who you believe you are, that you're comfortable with. You do you. If someone's got a problem with it, fuck them. Who cares? Do what you do. And if someone's got a problem with it, then just walk it off. I mean, it's just to me, it's the to me, it's like I don't. If someone had a problem with me, and they're like, you're toxic, you're a toxic masculine dude. Like, okay, I can go on for an hour about you, lady or dude, who it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, your opinion's not going to change who I am, and I'm not going to change it for anyone. I'm going to be who I am. So fuck off and I'm going to get on with my life. You're going to get on with your life. We're not meant to like coexist with each other. We don't have to be friends. Not everybody has to be friendly with each other, but you do you, I'll do me, and let's move on. That's like my 2 cents in the whole thing.
So I come from a generation that it's interesting because in America back, and I'm not going to go too far back, but like in the 40s, 50s, 60s, right?
Typically, your generation?
No, hang on.
Okay.
The man was the one that worked, and the woman stayed at the house. You know, that was more of a norm. Not everyone, but
right. I'm sure there were plenty of badass women back there that kind of did their thing. Right?
Absolutely, this goes way back, and it's, oddly enough, in the whiskey world, that was something like Chris and I actually wanted to tour. It's still COVID rules, but Greenbrier down in Nashville.
Oh, Charlie Nelson down there.
Yeah, look that story up. There was the wife took over the business, but they couldn't even say that to the family because so there's all this is historical. But the toxic masculinity, the way I look at that term is that the man does everything and the woman is submissive, right? That's the term now. I don't think that's always the case, but I'm in that generation where it was in between, where yes, the man went to work, there was a housewife, right, and they relied on that. That model has not successfully transpired to where we're at right now. But I look at the toxic masculinity. It's like, no. So for Uriel, that put it the way of, is being a masculine man toxic, or does it make for a good husband / father? I think being a masculine man, if your family unit is one that you, not saying that the wife or the female in the situation works or doesn't work, but I think no, you can be that masculine person.
Yeah, of course you can.
I think that you can be a provider with the help. In today's world, especially in the U.S., typically it is a double income home, right? With kids, you have to make sure that it works based on health, childcare and stuff like that, is who's making what and how does that work with the reality of the situation. If you base things just based on man versus woman, the woman makes more, but the man is the man. Like, well, that's not a smart financial decision, right?
Right. Yeah.
You have to look at all that stuff, and there's a lot of humble moments for either side. Uriel, I think that no, I don't think that being a masculine man is bad. I think that the toxic side of it is if you are so ingrained in that the man makes the earning, no matter what it is, you're the one that goes to work and the woman stays home. Now you're pushing the boundaries of, and if it works for them, great. Chances are it won't, because of the world we live in. That's beginning to be toxic. It's outdated. I grew up in a generation where it was like, and you look at it, it's like what a man's supposed to look like, what a woman's supposed to look like. And I think more often now, obviously with all the gender stuff going on right now, I think more on a surface level thing is that what you were saying, like, there's just so many different people out there.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that way. I grew up with, being in the 80s and 90s, it was the celebrities I looked at were athletes, because that's what was getting super popular. It was,
I still do look up to athletes.
It was action stars in the movies.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I grew up with Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was, all those guys that were really like these, really like they're juiced out of their mind. Right. You know what I mean? But like, that was the example that I thought, that's a man. right? Taking care of whatever it is, saving the day, being, huge, builds, super like cut, like all this stuff that is really hard to attain, and more like recent years, you see that, it's hard for females to attain the Victoria's Secret, the like back in the 80s and 90s, it was like Kate Moss and like the basically anorexic models. And it's like, yeah, that isn't good. But on the flip side of that, being a male, it's like our things that we were trying to compete with were either super rich guys or people that were like super ripped and like saving the day in the movies, like they were like the manly men.
Still like that to this day.
Like, do you know how hard it is to get to that point?
Right. Yeah.
And all someone like, like what Ray was talking about, or like what Uriel's talking about is, it's like, I'm just trying to provide for my family. That's admirable. Anyone that calls that toxic is out of their goddamn mind.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you do it in a negative way and put the woman or whatever as second class, now you're getting that toxic thing.
Right. Yeah.
But if you're trying to be in this, like the masculine man, and I want to be healthy, I want to be fit, I want to be a provider, there's nothing wrong with that. I also think on the flip side of this is not being politically correct. If the woman wants to participate and try to provide for a family in their own right,
good for her. That's awesome.
Well, no, I mean, good for the family unit,
right?
Good for the couple. I think this is something that is important, but you have to figure it out. It goes back again. All these topics are very, very tied in my opinion, that if you're not vulnerable with your partner figuring that out or trying to do that, if you walk into a relationship, I know Tyler, you're dating and all that stuff. It's like, if you're just going to be like, I'm going to be the man, I'm going to provide, wrong. If the girl on the other side is, I don't need a man, it's like, then why are you fucking on a dating site? Like, it's like, there's both sides of it.
Right.
There's toxic, really kind of malicious types of mentalities there, that it's like, I don't need the other person, I'm going to provide for the other person, I'm stronger than the other sex. It's like, that's the toxic part of it.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
You got to work together and make life work, because there's no right path for everyone.
Right.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with a guy, depending on who you are, what your upbringing was. I was a sociology major, so you brought up psychology, but it's like, if you're socialized to a certain point, like what Ray was saying, on the flip side of that, I was before that curve where it's like, no, I still have a little bit of like that humble pie, that if I can't help or provide or be the man in my own life, not the relationship, but in the workplace, in the relationship, otherwise, I want to be the best man I can. But that definition is always changing, but it's always ingrained in where I want to be. That's the reason that I still try to take care of myself. The reason I still work out. That's the reason. Everything I said, that's what was an impression on me, that I don't want to be the 40-some, 50-some year old out of shape guy that just has hobbies and I make more money than my significant other, and therefore I'm the dominant person. No, I want to be a partner. I want to be a partner in the relationship. I want to be a partner in the job I'm in, my career. I want to be a player in that. That I don't think is toxic, but I think it's being thrown around as being toxic, as if you want to be a straight, like, you talked about the definition of it. Same thing as that cis definition. That's more recent. And there are studies, I forget where it was in Europe, that it was coined as something. It's like, so now it can be a negative to some people because I am a straight male. That's not, I don't think that's okay. It's like, no, you can identify as whatever you want, but I can't identify as a straight white male. That's a problem. Like, that's very short-sighted, and it's very hypocritical.
That's that pendulum going too far to the other direction.
Anyone want to comment on that?
I mean, it's a wild scene a little bit right now. I mean, there's nothing
wrong with wanting to be the man for your woman.
Right. Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong
for your
with that.
family.
Yeah,
but that definition is not just being this, what's coined as toxic. It's like, I want to be the best me for the people that are the most important for me, whatever that definition is, based on your situation.
Every man should be willing and able to fight for their family in whatever area that is, whether it be professional or just in the household. Like, every man should be able to fight for what they have and what is important to them. That's not toxic. Like,
No.
you know, and it doesn't even mean you have to be the leader of your home. Jonathan Herring and Mike Dieter were kind of, Jonathan Herring was playing devil's advocate, going back and forth with Mike. Some men aren't leaders. That's true.
Right.
But
Some men are followers, and you need followers for the guys who can lead.
Yeah.
Not everybody's meant to lead in this life we live in.
yeah, but at the
I
same
mean,
time,
I fucking learned that in the military. First off, I'm like, you have no business being fucking charging me, pal, or whatever. You're a fucking slapdick or whatever. Like, who the hell are you? What have you done? But it was the world he's in, and I got to listen to the guy or whatever. But it doesn't mean I have to personally agree with everything. But at the same time, it's like, it's something else.
yeah,
I think there's got to be a mutual respect on all sides in your personal life. But being a masculine man, it means different things for different people. And it becomes toxic if you are that mentality of like, the man knows best. The man is going to provide no matter what. Like, don't go to work, whatever it is. Like, that's where it's like, it's toxic because it doesn't exist anymore. It's not a reality.
Yeah.
Right.
If that's your
Like,
MO and your girl's
that's
good with it, then who am I to say you're wrong?
Well, and if the family unit works better, the man makes good money and can provide while the woman takes care of the kids, in the house. The other side of that is like, I don't look down on a guy that if the woman makes more and it makes sense for the family, that the guy has to take years off to take care of the family. That is, for someone in my generation, that's tough to do, but that makes you more of a man to be able to do that, because that's what's important. I'm not saying stay-at-home dads necessarily have to get comfortable with that, because for a guy like myself and people in my generation, I think that there is something there that they will struggle. But I also think that women in my generation now and other age groups, they're going to struggle doing the same thing.
Yeah.
That's a personal thing and has nothing to do necessarily anymore, in my opinion, with masculinity or femininity. Like, it's just, that's you as a person. You want to contribute. You want to do something with your life.
Right, yeah.
But I don't look down on anyone that stays home with the kids, whether it be the husband, the wife, or whoever it is, whatever it might be. But it's like, and otherwise it's the toxic masculinity. I don't look bad at people that are the traditional, not cis, but traditional male or female or anything in between. Live your life, man. But just don't.
It's a perfect example of situations.
Don't call someone that's different than you. That's the hypocrisy today. The hypocrisy today is that someone that's different than you or is old school, you're the problem. It's like, no, like, you're not the problem. I'm not the problem. Like, we can coexist.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
That's why I thought it might be the last topic.
That was a good one.
Oh, it's a tough one, man.
Calm down.
Yeah, a little bit. That one gets the blood boiling a little bit,
No, I think that it's something that people don't like to talk about in a more general conversation. It's always pointed.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that we're able to talk about it, where it's like there's respect on all sides, no matter how you identify with what's like where you're at, but it's like calling things toxic because it's traditional. That's not okay.
Right.
But if you are absolutely oblivious and you think a certain way and you think that someone is lesser than you, that's where it's toxic.
Right. Yeah.
That's the difference.
Right.
That's, in my opinion.
That's where I go back to, just figure your shit out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Closing remarks, Tyler, go.
Thank you guys for having me. First off,
Yeah,
I thought you were leading in. I was
that was a weird transition.
Yeah,
no, I feel like he was going into it. Figure shit out.
Yeah. Figure your shit out. I mean, it's life's not easy, and we all got to figure I mean, it's not gonna be a walk in the park. It's gonna, you're gonna face adversity. You're gonna be vulnerable. You're gonna have to deal with a bunch of shit. Like we all have. Everybody in this fucking walk of life has dealt with something to a certain degree. And if you haven't, just wait for it, like Jonathan said earlier,
Yeah.
because it's going to be coming at some point. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, like Rocky said it. He said it best.
Gotta get up.
But it's just you do you. Someone's got a problem with how you do stuff or how you and your spouse, deal with things. They're not in your life, so they don't understand the whole 100% picture that you're in. And if they don't want to understand it, fuck them. And yeah, it's kind of easy as that. I mean, you just got to deal with your own shit. And I mean, I got enough problems myself. I don't need to deal with other people's shit. So it's like, fuck, I got my own job.
That's a good point.
I got my own, I got to worry about my own shit. I don't have enough time to worry about other people's shit and what other people are saying about other people. It's like, okay, if they're affecting a friend of mine, then I'll listen to it or something like that and try to, stick by my friend's side or whatever. But I don't know why everybody just can't be happy for everybody. I mean, I want everybody to be a billionaire at some point in their life. Is it going to happen? No, but you know what? I wish everybody the best in life. To a certain degree, of course, pieces of shit, they should be pieces of shit and, be a tree like it. But, it's do your thing. If someone's got a problem with it, stand by your friends, be a real one. And thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely.
I had a great time as always.
Yeah. Thanks for being a part of it. Thanks for bringing the cigars, the whiskey.
Absolutely. Can't wait to the music episode. It's going to be fun.
That'll probably have more emotion from what we saw in the intermission.
There might be some shit flying in here with that.
If you're listening to the audio and you're listening to part 2, there was a little bit of
in the intermission. Yeah,
the intermission was getting a little electric.
It was good. It was getting good. I wish that was. We're gonna have to have a whole show of that. That'll be fun.
Nate, go ahead.
It's only been 5 years since we did that.
It's a good time to do another.
Do it again. Tyler's gonna be the one on there.
Hell yeah.
So we talked about what toxic masculinity. What were the other?
Being vulnerable,
and
you don't have your notebook.
Yeah.
in decades.
The decades. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. So it doesn't matter where you are. I think in stages of life. You don't have it figured out. Don't think what's going to happen 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Because like when I remember one of the running jokes, back in 2020 when COVID first hit, they were like, anyone who did an interview 5 years ago, and they always ask that question, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Everyone got that wrong.
I have no idea where I'm going to be in 5 years.
No,
who knows?
You don't. You may know
what be is a.
You may know where you would.
Question.
Yeah, you may know where you would like to be or where you want to be, but you don't know what events are going to transpire in between now and then. So it's about being able to adapt to those changes as they come in life, because life's not going to wait until the zeros to throw a curveball at you. It's not going to wait till you're 20, till you're 30, till you're 40. It's going to throw a monkey wrench in things in between. The best you can do is, roll with it and learn from the punches that life throws at you. I know personally in my life, it's been beneficial to have someone to go through that with, even though when negative things have transpired in my life, it's not just impacting me, it's also impacting my family. So that means other people are suffering from it as well. No one wants that, but having someone else to be able to go through that with can help both parties, because both parties in that case are vulnerable. One needs the help and the other being there to provide the help, especially if there hadn't been a situation in that relationship for that other party to help and be the strong one and be the leader. I I'll admit openly, like when things were going bad, in my life, 9 years ago, I wasn't the leader in our house. I wasn't in a position to be a leader in our house because I wasn't the kind of person I needed to be in order to be a leader in the house. And so I had to rely on someone else. And I think for some people out there, probably mostly men, like it's hard to not be the person in charge, because giving up your reins of being the person in charge can be a state of vulnerability. To give up some of that control or some of that leadership. But then there are other ways, even when things were going bad, there were other ways that I could have stepped up and been a leader in the house. So it was one of those things where, as much as that situation sucked, it gave me an opportunity to be vulnerable. It gave my wife the opportunity to be a leader. And it strengthened our relationship on both fronts. Because we, my wife learned, what matters to me and, being able to provide for my family, but also, it showed her that she has the ability to step up when the situation calls for it, to be responsible, to be a leader, to be in charge, but also be there for me to provide the things I need to be in order for me to get back on my horse and be the kind of man I need to be in my house.
I like that.
Hell yeah.
For me, closing remarks. So the vulnerability, the decades, the masculinity, it all goes into, for me, it's all about finding out who you are and constantly learning who you are, because who you are at 20 is not who you're going to be at 30, 40, like 30, 35, 40, 50. It's constantly changing. And I think that this is something that all the other topics, the vulnerability, being allowed to be vulnerable to figure out who you are and who's also how you want to interact with people that are important to you. I think these are very important things that will help you get to that point. If you are, in this day and age, we talk about all the time about like how you identify who you are as a person, what your pronouns are, all that stuff. I don't think that you need to be ashamed about in any way who you are. And I think that as you get older, as you go through life, though, that shit will change. Where you think your life's going to go, hopefully it will go that way if that's what you want. But chances are that'll change. If you think you know best in your 20s, 30s, 40s, wherever you are in life, it's going to change. And you're going to learn. You'll probably contradict yourself more than you'll contradict other people. But those factors of other people will bring you to, hopefully, to the light of who you are and how you do that. But you have to be vulnerable. I mean, I can talk in circles about this all night, about all these topics we brought up, that it's interesting how they all interact with each other and actually influence each other. But it's like, you don't need to be ashamed who you are unless you don't know who you are and you're just trying to be someone you're not. And I think this is something that as you go through life, if you are open, if you're vulnerable to others and even your own self and your own mind, now you can finally accept the reality of things. And you should never be ashamed on who you are. You really shouldn't. Whether it's what people classify as toxic masculinity, if you're a straight male, if you're a straight female, if you identify with pronouns that are not traditional, it matters, but in my opinion, it also doesn't matter, which sometimes people feel like that mentality is part of the problem. Just try to find out constantly who you are. And that's the only way that you can have a successful career. That's the only way you'll have a successful personal relationship. It's the only way that you can be, I think, comfortable with your family, depending on what your family background is. But most importantly, it's like when you look in the mirror, that's where it starts. And I think all those things, and I'll say this, is that looking in the mirror and not being delusional or being the victim, it's being vulnerable, looking at your own self in the mirror. We look at ourselves in the camera while we do this. This is a humbling experience because you guys are a part of this. But as we're doing this, the way we do this in the garage is that we see ourselves talking. That is a best practice that I really encourage you guys to do. Not necessarily socially, but you can look yourself in the mirror and not kid yourself. What is going to make you happy? I'm not talking about necessarily being a millionaire or having a six-pack or whatever it is, but it's like, if you're not happy with something, address it. If you're not happy with, what you do for a living, start addressing it and figure it out. If you're not happy with what you see in the mirror, if you're not happy when you look yourself in the eye, then you need to address it. If you are happy with it, then continue down the path, but also keep your ears and every other sense open to people around you that you might be on the wrong path, but because you're doing it on your own, that's short-lived. And I'll say that you always have to really start, we say it a lot, you start with yourself and then build outward from that. That's the way that I've learned that that's the way I can sleep at night. That's the way that I can feel comfortable in my own skin, is what's important to me, but also what's important to people that I hold to a very high importance in my life. Their opinion matters.
Keep it real.
Keep it real, but make sure that there's a reason their opinion matters. Guys, happy Whiskey Wednesday. Tyler, thanks for everything.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys in the community and everyone else listening out there. Thanks for everything that you guys have done to support this, and also the part two. The topics are great. I love having conversations with all of you out there.
That was a lot of fun.